Welcome back to Always Almost There, a Goose podcast series on We Move Through Stormy Weather. My name is Neal.
And I'm Brian, aka Jive Goose.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Kev.
And I'm Danny. The five of us are here today to talk about the second leg of Goose's 2022 winter tour.
Now, before we jump in, I just want to take a second to mention a couple of things. If you aren't already aware, I have been posting rig rundowns, if you will, with members of Goose. So far, at the time of this airing, there will be Rick and Peter's guitar rig and Peter's keyboard rig, which is super exciting. Jeff, Ben, and Trevor are all in the future, so look forward to those. Check them out, ryanstorm.substack.com, if you are not already. And for any of you fish listeners that may be tuning into this, We Move Through Stormy Weather main series, the fish series, will be coming back next week at the time of this airing with a very exciting guest that I'm excited to announce later this week. So, without further ado, shall we talk about this leg of tour?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So starting off, after Goosemas, band headed down to the first night of Washington, D.C., the 930 Club. I have a lot of attendance bias for this show, so quick disclaimer. Start with set 1, Liza Jane, Drive, Travelers, Doc Brown, Old Man's Boat, California Magic, Madhavan. I do want to remind everybody that Liza Jane is not Atlas, and I will regret that text that I sent for the rest of my life. Solid opener. Diving into Drive, I have a lot to say about this. You know, I was really excited to hear this at a show, first of all. And when the jam started, it felt like for the first few minutes that it was just going to stay in kind of standard Drive territory. And then, then they just abruptly just dove into this dark jam that was just absolutely incredible. Peter, went from guitar, was doing some cool textural stuff on the Vintage 5 for a couple of minutes, then back to guitar. Rick hit on this really cool descending lick. It was just really, really great way to open the show. What do you guys think of this drive?
Oh, man, this drive, it's one of my favorite drives that I've heard in a really, really long time. I can't actually remember the last drive I liked as much as this one. It has like a tinge of darkness, which, we keep talking about when we're talking about this tour. And, right off the bat, like a little bit of darkness in your drive, which I don't think I can ever remember one quite like this one. I was really into it at the time.
Yeah, I was also a big fan of this drive. Now, real quick on the Liza Jane, though. Nice little jam here.
Yeah.
And I know we've been talking a lot about efficiency, and that also that also applies, and you can hear it in just these shorter kind of type 1, if we want to say that, type jams. And I thought this was a good example of that. It's a nice tight little jam. It's a good opener. But yeah, the drive. I agree, Neal. This is my favorite driver of the year, and yeah, it could be my favorite even back further than that. Who knows how far back? Atypical in a lot of ways. I liked the relaxed pace of the early part of the jam, and then, like you said, that darker mood shows up around 12 minutes in, and they latch onto a really cool theme and ride that out. And also, last thing I'll say, the return to the drive theme was really, really cool here. Better than usual. Really, really strong finish after that cool kind of dark jam. So loved it.
Well, to be fair, Liza Jane does sound a little bit like Atlas, so we'll give him a pass on his first official Goose song live. But no, great.
I was at Goosemas.
That's true. We
did a podcast on this.
It was your first more theater style show. So anyways.
There you go.
Yeah, great.
So take that back. It was a total failure on his part.
It was.
All right. Well, I was just trying to
I'm not afraid to admit it. I appreciate you trying to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, I really liked even the first 3 tracks, great fluidity and sort of that kind of melt into Travelers. The drive is great. I think that's a song that has really come back strong since, kind of fall. Summer obviously had some decent versions as well, but I think drive's gotten a lot better. Great version to end the tour as well. So yeah, it was a really fun start to the night. I mean, excited.
Kev?
It's cool seeing Drive show up in the top half of the first set. Real popular. And the 3-spot, 2-spot, seeing it early.
Love a drive opener.
Yeah, drive opener, second spot. 2020, they played it a lot in the 3 slot there in the first set. But yeah, just get the crowd energy going early. I love it. Great selection.
Yeah. Set continues on with Travelers, as was mentioned, Doc Brown, Old Man's Boat, the debut of California Magic, and Madhavan. I mean, to me, this is just a really, really solid first set. Boat wasn't that long, but it felt to me like Peter was hanging back a little bit more during the jam than he normally does, not just straight up soloing on the vintage vibe like he usually does, which I thought was a cool vibe, but nothing too noteworthy. California Magic, I absolutely love this song. And we'll see it get played a couple more times throughout the tour. But I love the lyrics. I love the laid back, lounge, bluesy vibe. I think it's just a great tune. And Mr. Mitochondria, you've done it again. Great tune. And this Madhavan to close the set was really cool because also, we've seen a lot of shorter sets from them, and we will see some shorter sets from them. And, I thought we were done after California Magic, and so throwing a nearly 20-minute Madhavan almost felt like a bonus to begin with. And then this jam is really cool. Rick leads the band through. They modulate in and out of Madhavan's natural key of E a whole bunch of times, and it's just a really, really cool jam. Doesn't end up ranking too high on my list, but really, really great nonetheless.
Yeah, I tweeted about that Madhavan jam. I unfortunately had a typo and said it brought ears to my eyes, but it did. It's a really beautiful jam, and in my opinion, it's probably the 4th best jam of the show. And I think it says a lot about the strength of this show. It's really, really pretty jam. I really liked it a lot. But jumping back to California Magic, hearing this for the first time, I really wasn't sure, what I was going to think about that tune. I don't think I loved it as much then as I do now. I mean, I think they averaged a 2.5 show gap, from debut, maybe even less than that. And yeah, it just got better and better every time.
I'm with Neal on that California Magic. It wasn't one of the newer songs that kind of clicked with me, but the more that I've been hearing it, especially preparing for this conversation that we're having right now, California Magic is really kind of rocketed to the top of the new song list that I like. The Old Man's Boat jam was really nice as well for that first set.
Yeah, I think it's got sort of a feel. I saw it later in the year in Philly, but as the tour developed and as you stated, Neal, a lot of playtime for this song in particular. It sounded it definitely needed work for me the first time I recall listening kind of that night. But it still had some great I think the influence of the music itself, looking at I said the band, a little bit of the Wood Brothers, maybe some JGB, and then the lyrics though have sort of some Father John Misty influence to me. I think some of the wordplay, very strong.
Long time listener,
kneeling,
first time caller.
Yeah, kneeling at the altar, stuff like that. So very cool. I think as the tour developed, the song got stronger, and it's almost kind of like the lighter side of Dr. Darkness for me, sort of similar kind of.
Ooh.
Plays and very strong lyrics and music. So yeah, good song, good set. Madhavan to close. Very fun show so far.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add, I also love California Magic. This was the 11th debut of the year and the 8th new original Rick song, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, you get those. I got the laid back Laurel Canyon, Father John Misty vibes right off the bat. So loved it right away. It's another example of the range and maturity of Rick's songwriting. With talking about this batch of songs that he's put out this year, it's been incredible. And that's 8 great songs. There's not a single stinker in there. I don't care who you talk to. And then the Madhavan, yeah, nothing to add there. I agree exactly with exactly what you said, Neal, about it being probably the 4th best jam of this night. So not to sell it short, but if anything, that says how strong the rest of the show was. And then last thing, that set 1 did clock in at 91 minutes. So that was right up there, very close to Royal Oak as which was the longest set 1 of the tour.
I have a knack for seeing long set ones, I think. All right. Set 2, Into the Mist, I Wish, Wisteria Lane, Your Ocean, Pancakes. I mean, this is a pretty incredible set. Into the Mist, you had that moment where they stopped the song to make sure, check on something in the crowd. It looked, from my perspective, it looked like someone had maybe fallen down, but they quickly, everything was okay. They jumped right back into the song. No jam here, which, detracts from it a little bit, but I think they make up for it. First, I Wish, since in front of a paying audience since December 2019. I think it was 12/7/19, and they played it at Greg's wedding last year. But I think they absolutely kill this cover. Peter's vintage vibe, this leg of tour. I think he's been cranking the distortion on it a little bit, but it just sounded so good here. Fantastic solo. And then they jump into Wisteria, only the second version of the year, following up that massive San Francisco one. And to me, there were some big shoes to fill. I actually thought before they started the song, Rick played with a little bit of his reverse delay thing for a few seconds. And I thought they were about to drop the Whales mid-second set, but luckily they did Wisteria instead. And being in the venue for this, my initial thoughts were immediately, this is the jam of the year. Full, obviously, recency, attendance bias, hasty rank, whatever you want to call it. And I texted you guys that, and, there being no stream and you guys not being able to hear it, you were all immediately like, no way, stop being an idiot. And then you listen to it and you realize that it was really good. And I still have this at the top of my list. I don't think any of you do. But this Wisteria, you've got that, Spuds and Jeff returning to that Dripfield kind of vibe, very Tom heavy, tribal, primal jam.
Primal banger for sure.
Primal bangers?
Primal banger.
Banger.
I know Jeff mentioned how he contemplated hitting the sample to segue into Dripfield, but I'm glad he didn't. And this kind of this felt like Spuds was kind of giving Rick this holy shit look in the latter half of the jam, when Rick is just kind of just going for it over this kind of chord progression they get into. But he was just giving him this look as they were just tearing through this, as Rick was using that classic octave up tone of his, just wow, this is awesome. And it was a really, really incredible jam, seemed to stretch on forever. And it, towards the end, that progression that they're doing feels like a classic rock song to me. Not anyone in particular, but it just feels like it could be. But this is my current jam of the year.
Yeah, I think that's aggressive.
Okay.
It's good, and I'm glad you had such a great time being in attendance. Fairly straightforward, I thought, but yeah, at 15 minutes, it just takes that evil turn and doesn't lose any momentum. It's kind of similar to the Drive. I thought they land on a really cool theme and kind of ride it out. But I do still prefer the San Francisco version overall. But yeah, this one's also in my top 10, so it's still very good.
I think I have this Wisteria at number 8. Going back to that Mist, just a couple things real quick. Shout out to Groove Safe. We're not sure what happened to the gentleman that was in the audience there. Shout out to Groove Safe. Check your drugs, check each other, and make sure that you're drinking water out there, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a good start to the set, I think. This sort of began a string, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, unfinished Mist, because this went right in, right? We didn't finish this one, especially
Correct.
especially with sort of the short, abrupt stop. But they picked it up well, and I Wish was fun. We got sort of elements of it, rest of the set, and but yeah, Wisteria Lane was great. Very good version. I think, like Brian said, I still prefer the San Francisco one. This one's sort of near the bottom of my top 10 as well. And yeah, they kind of, that last 10 minutes for me, they sort of get that plodding Tom heavy, like you said, Ryan, sort of just pushing and grinding. Nice guitar from Rick and sort of interplay with Peter. And but just a solid, very, very strong opening show. Your energy coming through the text that night for us, especially with no stream, was great. And then we got this one, later that night? Didn't Peter put it up too?
Yeah, he was really quick on the first ones. And don't be so quick to wrap up the show yet, because we haven't talked
I'm
about
not.
I was going to say,
Pancakes.
hey guys, we got to talk about pancakes.
Neal needs to talk about the wisteria.
I'd like to talk about wisteria, and then we should, and then also Your Ocean, right? So I'm not the biggest fan of Your Ocean showing up in the second set. I thought it was awesome here, sandwiched in between Wisteria Lane and Pancakes. It was like just like the perfect cool down from the really dark corners that like Wisteria Lane went into, and then right before Pancakes, which also, gets pretty weird. And also pretty cool that, it was an 11 show gap for Wisteria, which is a really, really long time for that tune to not be played. And then also right after Wisteria, 7 show gap for Your Ocean. Nobody really saw that one coming. So that was also pretty great. But I'll pass it to one of you guys to start up on the Pancakes thing.
Well, sorry. Just real quick, Neal. Again, I agree with you here. I had a kind of similar note about Your Ocean, just that this was ideal placement for it between coming out of that Wisteria, and then before going into Pancakes to close the set. That is where that song belongs, and so it's always good. It's always good to see it there, and they get that one right a lot. I feel like this was the third missed of the year, by the way, and they would play it a fourth time in Cleveland. All 4 have been unfinished. So I'll talk about a little bit more later. I have written a letter.
Strongly worded.
Strongly worded letter. I hope.
Yeah. I'm sure either way. I'm sure Coach tore it up.
Hey,
you literally sent it to the manager too.
Yeah. He tried to get it to the right place. I wanted to say, too, I wasn't ending the show. I was just commending our man, Peter, for getting the soundboard up, as well as you guys. This placement of Your Ocean, for me, really felt like, as we're working through the Jam of the Year bracket, I think back to the Fred Creatures, 5-4, 21. You had this awesome, amazing Creatures, some of one of Ryan's favorite jams of last year, and then you get Your Ocean. It's like a perfect cool down song, an excellent landing pad. So,
yeah. I was gonna say I think when used correctly, which I think it is frequently, Your Ocean is one of Goose's absolute best landing pads after a big jam. I would put that and Moby. I think is my 2 favorite. Kind of cool down, but keep the energy going, mid-second set slot after a jam like this Wisteria. But let's talk about this Pancakes.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this Pancakes. Flap those jacks.
Nice.
I kind of said a lot about the Wisteria, so I'll say about this. Just really, really awesome jam. It was great to see. Shout out to Jeff's percussion solo when they returned to the song at the end and those awesome I Wish teases. But this is really awesome.
We talked about it a little offline. The what they're doing with Pancakes is just extraordinary, and that there's no really bad pancakes. They're just all different.
Mm-hmm.
But
in terms of Pancakes,
tasty.
this one probably sits lower on my list of pancakes, and that is
is that lower in the stack?
It's lower in the stack of Pancakes, indeed.
But it's saturating all the maple.
Funny guy.
It really says nothing about this song being bad. In fact, this is an excellent, excellent version of this song. What I think keeps this lower on the list for me is there's no kind of particular moment that I can point to kind of say this is what sets this Pancakes apart. It feels like of all the Pancakes they played, this is the one that I don't know, didn't have any kind of establishing character to it. But it was still a pretty spectacular jam.
Yeah, I think this is probably my 3rd ranked Pancake. So I guess middle of the pack, essentially. But it's good. What I like about these Pancakes jams, for the most part, they tend to start off with a nice chill jam right off the bat. This was a real pretty jam, and Ben adds some tom heavy fills, and Rick is patient, and then it just really gets moved. It just gradually picks up pace, and then it's really moving. This one got quite funky, I thought, and some nice chord soloing from Rick over Peter's piano, Trev with some funk bass, and it really settles into a nice kind of dancey, upbeat funk groove, and blends back nicely into the Pancakes, refrain. So I think I'm right there with you. Not the top of the stack, but it's not sitting right on the plate either.
Yep.
Oh my God.
It's mid stack.
That's a good bite in the end, with the doobie finish.
Real.
Solid. Doobie Encore was great. It's a good encore slot. I feel like, I would personally prefer something a little more high energy in the encore slot, but Doobie definitely works.
B loves a doobie encore.
Shout out to Coach and Naveed having a Doobie during the encore, which was funny to watch from the balcony.
Nice. Hey, Doobie Encore is not bad. And for your second show to pick up a Doobie, Ryan, not too shabby either.
Hey, I got a Doobie on my second show too.
You know what? The two longtime debut Goose originals that I wasn't able to catch in the 6 shows I saw were Jive 2 and Lead the Way. Everything else that isn't a debut from the last 2 years, like I think I saw it, which was really great. Anyway, so moving on to the second night of DC, we've got first set, Jive 1, Indian River, Dr. Darkness, SOS, Jeff Engborg. I'm just going to say this show, doesn't really have any meaningful improv until the fourth quarter. But, I would say the band's energy was high all night. They were playing really well. They just weren't playing jam songs. I would say Jive 1 was great. Indian River, they took their time with a little bit more than they do normally with the Delta-ish jam. And I mean, the cool kind of, I think this was the second iteration of that Indian River dissolve into the weird dark jam into Dr. Darkness, which was cool. SOS was great, as it always is. And Engborg is an awesome song, and I love that they play it because Clav.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, I think you're trying to make this one sound as good as you can, but it falls short definitely after that the night before. But I tell you what, that Jive 1 coming out of the gate was hot. That was a huge intro jam.
Hot.
And I'm not sure I've heard either a longer or a better one, in fact. And I probably should have asked you, being there, was there a reason that they would intro it that long? I mean, part of me thought, it almost sounded like they were recycling through. So is somebody having an equipment issue?
They were feeling it.
Yeah. Or they're just feeling it.
They were just feeling it.
And then just quickly run through this set. So the Indian River, it had the Welcome to Delta-ish jam again.
Ish.
And we talk about efficiency a lot. This isn't it. This is not the what you would picture and or hear when you think of efficiency. This was this kind of felt like they spent a lot of time not really going anywhere, at least not anywhere incredibly interesting to me. And so certainly, in my opinion, it was my least favorite, I guess I would say, of those expanded Indian Rivers that we've been seeing. And then Dr. Darkness, another strong SOS. Engborg is super cool, but that set pretty much wrapped up with not a whole lot of, like you said, Ryan, meaningful improv.
I like the bookends on that set. I really like that Jive 1. I mean, I think it clocks in like just over 13 minutes or just under 14.
14 minutes. Yeah,
and then Jeff Engborg, I can't say enough about this tune. I love it, and I wish they
Shout out to Jeff Engborg.
Yeah, it's
really nice guy.
Well, he seems like a great dude. I've seen him like posting on El Goose, but it's to me like the spiritual cousin of Earthling or Alien, and like that is going to get some booze from the peanut gallery, but like it does the same thing. I think it's intended to do the same thing.
Who's booing Engborg?
What?
I want to meet these people. I know, but you made the comparison.
You're
comparing Engborg. People are booing Engborg.
Not Jeff Engborg. But look, it does the same thing, right? It gets you moving. It's like an awesome first set dancer to get everybody like into the show. And I love the placement. I hope this shows up in a whole ton of first sets. Really great tune.
Yeah, fun set. Nothing memorable, but that would have been sweet to be there. I agree. I'm ready to see Angborg. I think it's going to be a fun song live, but that's about all I got.
It is.
This one.
I'm a huge fan
I've
of
seen
that.
2 Angborgs, not to flex.
I'll trade you an Angborg with something.
I'm a huge fan of
jive
the
too.
super dark
Anyway.
little transitional stuff that Rick does in between Indian River and Dark, setting the table for Dr. Darkness. That's so cool. So cool.
It's that Ditto X4 looper pedal, which
that was in the
you can find
Rig
out more
reprise?
about if you watch.
I saw that in a rundown of a
yeah.
rig.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, sorry, Kev.
Rig reprise.
Okay, moving into set 2 of this show, we've got Bob Dawn, Flow Down, Time to Flee, Knights in White Satin, All I Need, Arrow. As we mentioned, first half of this set, not too much in the way of improv. Bob Dawn was cool. I was excited to see it live. No outro jam on this one, unfortunately.
As Bob Dawn without.
Moving into Bob Dawn without. And then moving into Flow Down. This Flow Down was, it's a flow down in the second set, so not the ideal placement, but really slow build, which not ideal for a second set, but it was cool to, it's 15-minute flow down without 2 minutes of it being a set opener, which happens sometimes. So it was cool to watch them take their time on that intro. Flee into Nights was great. And then All I Need into Arrow, we finally get that improv in the show. All I Need takes that beautiful dark turn again, just like the drive from the first night in that first jam. Gets super, just really, really great. And then, I figured it was going to be a single jammer. Then they brought out the second jam, and before we knew it, really, really patient segue into Arrow. This was kind of the first of many segues where they're finally reaching that full Arrow notation on the set list instead of just the partial bleed into. So it's really cool to watch them take their time with it and actually kind of blend the songs into each other. But this was great, and I mean, Arrow's one of those songs where I think the last couple of years, which I mean it's only been around for a few years, but Arrow's one of those songs where it either takes a long time to get somewhere interesting or just kind of sits within Arrow for a really long time. And this one gets interesting towards the end, but for the most part, it kind of stays within the box. And then Love Light Encore was fun. Shout out to Spuds for singing.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add, Ryan, so we can kind of zip through this. All I will say is that if Angborg is Earthling's cousin, spiritual cousin, then All I Need is Earthling's spiritual daddy.
Nice.
What?
Nice.
Wow.
No, I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
I'm just trying to distance Angborg from Earthling or Alien.
Well, it's not there.
But no, nothing else to add, Ryan. Yeah, I really liked the first All I Need jam. Second one cut short a little bit to go into Arrow. And Arrow, like a few of the ones that we've seen this year, a little long. There's some cool ambient jamming in there. But by and large, nothing that I've had on repeat. And Love Light closed it out.
Bring the Bob Dawn outro jam back, please.
Yeah. Hey,
I mean, it's a gamble. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Hey, second set Bob Dons though are nothing to sneeze at. They don't come around too often. Last one I think was Minnesota, and then before that it was Halloween, and then Westville.
And then Ryan, I asked at the time for Turn On Your Love Light. Was Russo at the show?
Russo was not at the show.
Okay.
They did Love Light because they wanted to play Love Light,
Not because they wanted to troll a fan. Gotcha.
No. But I know Spuds was encouraged to sing, and I'm glad that he did.
So before we move on from the show, I will say that I really, really liked the transition from All I Need to Arrow, which Ryan, you already said. And I like this Arrow. Arrow starts off really good with a little jam before the actual tune starts, which we talked about a little bit before we started recording, that I loved. And then there's like a section towards the end of this Arrow that also is really good for a few minutes. But, to what everybody else is saying, there's about 14 to 18 minutes in there that kind of just does what Arrow does. So kind of takes away from it being a super strong jam.
A little bit. Anyway, Moving on to Charlotte. We've got first set, Honeybee, Creatures, Pump Duck Kicks, Elizabeth, Silver Rising, and Tumble. I would like to preface this by saying I think I have a little bit of a skewed perspective on this show. I feel like I would view it a bit more positively, but the venue in Charlotte I would not recommend the Fillmore. We were all packed in like sardines, very sweaty, not good sightlines. But I would like to give a huge shout out to Sam Bardani on front of house sound, who absolutely kills it every night and made this not great venue still sound incredible. So thank you for that. But this first set, the song lengths kind of make it seem stronger than it is, though I think I view it more highly than other people. Could be attendance bias.
Yes.
Probably is. Definitely is. Honeybee is Honeybee. This Creatures was really cool because I had accidentally seen a set list and I knew that Pumped Up Kicks was coming out of that. So I was kind of holding my breath when they played Creatures, and I was kind of expecting like a 12-minute run of the mill Creatures into Pumped Up Kicks. But I was really happy that they took their time with it, stretched it to almost 24 minutes. Peter really shining in this jam, kind of, the first looks at what we'll see later in the tour with him doing, a bit of a different kind of playing on the clav. Not just straight, taking the front, shredding on it, which obviously I love, but taking more of a backseat kind of working on that more democratic vibe in the jams. And really great groove in that Creatures. Pumped Up Kicks was, Pumped Up Kicks. Elizabeth got into this really, really filthy funk jam in the middle. Really great. Silver Rising, I was surprised to see so soon again after just being played at Goose, and I think this was the first song to hit, I forget if it was 5 or 6 plays for the year. And then Tumble to close the set after I was expecting Silver Rising to close. Tumble was 23 minutes. I thought they kind of hit on an Arrow vibe in the middle, but it doesn't do a whole lot for its length, in my opinion. But still solid way to close the set.
I like the Creatures. Like, there were some really cool soft spaces there. Not like a creature that's going to knock your socks off. But the cool part is when they were transitioning into Pumped Up Kicks, it really, really sounded like they were going to do Shamalama, like for a while. And I think we were joking about that when we were kind of listening to I think we were listening to a fan stream for this one, weren't we?
Yes.
And so that one was like pretty fun and like kind of a surprise that like Pumped Up Kicks came right when it really sounded like they were going to jump into Shamalama. I like this Elizabeth. The Elizabeth was like pretty fun. Had like kind of a cool classic rock style jam at the start. And then kind of went into like Rick just kind of riffing blues stuff. And then it got like kind of like aimless and then shifted back to rocking out pretty hard at the end. It did what an Elizabeth can do. It's not like a standout Elizabeth or anything. Silver Rising is always incredible. I'll listen to it every show I go to. I don't care. I can play it every time. I really liked in this Tumble. It didn't do a whole lot of things, but like in my notes when we were listening to it for the first time, it was like Peter's guitar tone in this was really awesome. And like, it sounded like somewhere in between like Girlfriend is Better and like the guitar breakdown in Smooth Criminal, like Michael Jackson, not like Alien Ant Farm or anything like that. But like, it sounded really good. And then he kind of like stayed with this guitar tone in the tumbles through the rest of the tumbles that they played. And it's awesome. And I love his tone in this tumble. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's the set list itself. Yeah, nothing really excited me. I think what you guys had said. Good Elizabeth though. Definitely wasn't a clit one. It was nice and extended, and I thought great little jam. It's a good makeup of songs, but I think there was just so many stronger sets the rest of the tour. So nothing too crazy.
I agree with Danny. If I'm coming back to the set for any reason, it's going to be to listen to that Silver Rising and the new vocal arrangement harmonies. Just totally in love with the song, the harmonies, just a great, great song. And how many times did they play? That's one of the most that they've played out of the new songs so far, Silver Rising? 6 times. Yeah. Love it. Play it every show.
It's such a great song.
Yeah, that says it all, Kevin. When you're going back to the set or the show to catch that Silver Rising again. Yeah. And for me, set 2 started off with a couple nice jams that I know a lot of people like. The Slow Ready with the extended jam, nice segue into the Hot Tea, and I'll just give you my thoughts real quick. That was definitely the highlight of the set. Western Sun, White Lights closed out the set. Encore, Dance in the Moonlight. Not much to mention from my perspective there. I will just add that this was the shortest set 2 and encore of the year at just 65 minutes.
With encore too? Yeah. Wow.
With encore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a dark horse in the set list that I know Coach was upset they didn't play. But Slow Ready Hot Tea, I mean, obviously I know you don't like it as much, Brian, but I think this is the best Slow Ready they've played yet in terms of having that extended jam at the end. They've done it a couple of times before and then one time after. I believe the only 2 before this were the Pines July 2nd and Atlanta November 6th, if I'm not mistaken. But the Slow Ready was really cool. Hit on some, a really cool kind of space groove vibe on the back half after the classic arpeggiator jam when they got into that deeper arpeggiator jam. And the segue into Hot Tea, again, as I mentioned with the All I Need Arrow, really taking their time on this segue. Really, really amazing. And Hot Tea incorporating that arpeggiator back in was really awesome. I'm a fan, more arpeggiator jams. I think, not too much, but like bringing it in every once in a while. I think it adds a really, really cool vibe to the song. And, it kind of does what a click track does. So that's pretty cool.
I think definitely some click track in the Slow Ready. I think that one comment I have about it though, in terms of like they put that segment up online, and we can't discredit, like, admittedly, that those are the songs that are going to capture a large audience. So I understand in terms of getting the video. Yeah, it's okay. There's some goodness in it, but about it.
Yeah, for the most part, after Slow Ready Hot Tea, like Western Sun didn't have a jam on it. White Lights, cool White Lights jam, and then Dancing in the Moonlight was Dancing in the Moonlight. Like nothing crazy in this second set.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about the second set is this second set is an argument for a non-core. You get
just
13
keep playing.
minutes of, just keep playing, man. Like, that White Lights was only 13 minutes long. I could have dealt with like 7 more minutes of White Lights than 13 minutes of White Lights, then, encore break, and then, 5 minutes of Dancing in the Moonlight. Give me an encore in that situation. Like, if you're coming short, just play through it. I mean, they did it all through COVID, so why not?
Why do you hate King Harvest?
It's no moving out.
Okay, all right. Okay. Trash on Ryan for not knowing covers again. Okay.
Shall we move on?
Moving on to the next show.
Yeah.
We've got the next night in Nashville, March 4th. First set going Atlas Dogs, Butter Rum, It Burns Within, The Whales, Switch In, Pancakes. This Atlas Dogs didn't really stick out too much to me. I feel like it kind of hasn't lived up to the potential it kind of showed early in leg 1. But Butter Rum seems to be a jam vehicle now, so that's something we can all chew on a little bit. It Burns Within was great. Whales was The Whales. Switch In, great to hear that again after kind of a longer gap. Last time played Charleston last year, May 6th. And then another absolutely incredible Pancakes, to close the first set here. This one might be my favorite of the bunch so far. Has this really, really cool super dissonant section in the middle. Peter doing some great work on the organ, which I will talk more about later. His, leg 1 was all about Peter and his improvement in his guitar work. And leg 2, he really, really focused on taking his keyboard playing in different directions. And it really starts showing up in the latter half of this leg. We'll talk about the different stuff that he's doing with the clav, with that delay pedal later, him taking the lead on the organ in some jams, which I will get to, but really kind of not just doing what you expect on the keys. I think, you kind of see the beginnings of that here.
Yeah, Ryan, I like Atlas Dogs, and I liked it as an opener. That segue into Butter Rum started a little early in that Atlas jam, so not sure where that ranks in my list, but it's not the top in terms of the Atlas Dogs. There's been a couple of really good ones though. And then just quickly, It Burns Within. Glad to see it back for sure. Hope it gets into more regular rotation at some point. Love to see Switchin'. A lot of people always call it as an opener.
Yeah.
So it was
a lot of people.
We didn't get it as an opener as we would all kind of expect, because that's where it shows up a lot. But very happy to see it. And yeah, this set's all about the pancakes, and this is my favorite pancakes. I can say that for sure. And in fact, I think I have this as like my 8th jam of the year right now. And like I said before, this one does the same thing. Slides into a nice chill jam. Shortly after moving out of the verse chorus kind of proper section of the song. And then this one, the tempo goes up and it kind of takes a dark turn, which is kind of cool. And that's something that I've been noticing as Goose does start to incorporate a little bit more kind of darker, vibes and tones and all that. A lot of times they keep the momentum going. And I think sometimes when I think about dark jams, I think of something a little bit slower, like Sinister is going to be slow, but I like how they introduce that darkness while maintaining the tempo in some of these jams. And this one was like that. And then it does end up slowing way down. It kind of gets a little spooky, and Trev locks into a nice slow bass groove. Peter calls the cops in. Rick does some, he's doing his accent work over the top, and then Ben and Jeff start to bring the beat back up, and then it just keeps building momentum and a really nice peak before they bring it back home. So yeah, definitely top of my stack.
You skipped the whales.
Yeah, I'm on the top stack as well. Rest of the set, I think, is, it's got some fun songs. I think It Burns Within, I don't know. I mean, I wish it gets played more, but I think we're kind of sitting on, it's one of those rare ones once every 12 shows, 14, 15 shows. But if set got a little slow there for me. Switchin's great to hear. I think the sort of rum with Burns, Wales, Switchin, but an excellent pancakes to finish. Brian sort of summed it up. Yeah, there's that drop, I think almost around like 15 minutes or so, where it's kind of like Halloween intro. It's like Halloween music and super slow and like haunting, kind of Twilight Zone. And yeah, the cops definitely got called in my head a couple of times, but yeah, no, it's just a wonderful song. I think like each time we'll talk about it, the variety in the jams, like it is efficient, but unlike some songs that are long and feel long, I feel like Pancakes has done a great job of being able to like provide some changes and tempo changes and sort of mood shifts and keeps the listener captivated. So really excited for the song this summer, and a couple more versions this tour, like we'll talk about. But yeah, otherwise, that's pretty much the highlight of the set for me.
Dogs, I think it's a great opener here. I mean, it's not like a jam we're gonna remember years from now, but like if you're at the show, you're loving that Atlas Dogs. I thought it was pretty great. The bubble rum. It's not just butter rum; it's bubble rum.
Bubble rum?
Yeah, man, it's like full on Bubble House teas in here. I can't believe I'm the only one to mention this.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
I get really fired up for Bubble House teases. One of these days, Goose is going to play Bubble House, and I'm there for it. I'm going to listen to nobody but Ben when they play it. I'm so stoked for it. So, like, yeah, what Ryan said, like, Butter Rum is a jam vehicle now. Like, they're doing jams in this tune that aren't bad, and this is an example of that. So, all the butter rum hate, and which I'm not going to get into, like this is a good butter rum and the kind of a welcome second tune in the first set. Dissenting opinion on It Burns Within. I don't think this one hits as an electric tune. I love the song. I absolutely love it, and I love it when Arevalo plays it. But I think the reason why they don't play it so much is because it just doesn't hit the same as an electric tune. And like maybe I'm completely wrong on that one, and I'll take
Neal. I'll back you up 100% on that, man. I love this song. Like you guys know, as long as I've been talking with you guys, this song. Yeah, I put it on Fantasy Goose, and you guys make fun of me for it, right?
Yeah.
But I want to see this song hit so much, and it hurts my heart so much to see it being played and it not just fitting into the flow of the set list. It hurts my heart.
T5. Go listen to T5. It has a place. I do agree about this particular version. I didn't like this placement. Go listen to T5 again. They can do it electric. It has a spot. Don't know why they don't play it more.
Right on. I was there. That was cool though. That second set at T5 in the 3-set show is when they played it, and that actually fit pretty dope there. Switching. I mean, listen, like if you have good taste in music, you want to hear them open with that.
You would know.
First set, like I'm all right with it. But hey, man, they can play it whenever they want. I love it. And then, of course, the pancakes. This is the top of the stock for me. This is my favorite pancakes. So much good stuff happens in this one. There's like a Dragonfly jam at the beginning of this, which they do like a zillion times throughout this tour, where they start to play like some part of Dragonfly and they kind of walk away from it. Like you guys said, Peter called the cops. When Peter calls the cops, it's a great jam. There's no two ways about it. I think we said this on the last pod. There's no bad jam that Peter calls the cops on at all since he started calling them. And then the kind of the bass groove that Trevor drops in the middle of this pancakes is one of the more like cool things I've heard him do in 2022. Kind of like conjured this image of like a giant like plodding through my nightmares. Like it was great. Love this pancake so much.
Love it. Okay, and then set 2 of this show: Born, Rockdale, Seekers on the Ridge, Part 1, Part 2, Yeti, Trevor Reed's Poetry, Yeti, Magic Carpet Ride, and Turn Clouds Encore. Born has kind of gone through a few incarnations so far. This one has that kind of more grounded jam than that synth build that was in it before, but still none of that kind of like, drum
primal banger
driven groove jam that will pop up along with this first jam in Cleveland or Royal Oak. Sorry. I was at that show. Jeez, I should know. And then we got Rockdale. It's 24 and a half minutes. Doesn't do a whole lot, but I think this is necessary to get to where we get with the Cleveland Rockdale. I was really excited to see Rockdale, finally start to stretch his legs as, going outside the box, which we hadn't seen before now. Seekers mid-second set, it kind of takes up a big chunk of time. Would rather see this in a first set closing spot. I know I don't have a good track record with criticizing second set list choices, but I think Seekers works best in the first set, in my personal opinion. Yeti, Trevor reading poetry is always fun. Shout out to Coach for bowling a strike on the webcast.
Legend.
And then Magic Carpet Ride, was long and they did some stuff in it. And then Turn Clouds was the encore.
Yeah, Coach did the "Who do you think you are? I am."
Yeah, that's right.
So I heard you say Cleveland Rockdale. Can we talk about that now?
No. We'll get there.
It's going to be so fun.
Back just the Born real quick. Yeah, we had the new kind of piano solo in place of that slow build that they had done previously. And it's always cool. We always talk about how cool it is if they try different things. Personally, I really just love that slow build. I think Seattle is, for me, still the top Born. I think that's the perfect version. And this Rockdale, like you said, Ryan, it's long, clocks in over 24 minutes, and a bit of churn. It's a cool jam. It probably goes on.
Love a good churn.
Yeah, it probably goes on. Probably churns a little too long for my taste, but And then totally agree on Seekers. We've talked about this before. I think if this pairing shows up in set one, right before a nice big closer, that's a really awesome spot for it. And Yeti, Trevor Reed's Poetry, that's cool and fun. Magic Carpet Ride set 2 closer, I don't know. And then a really nice Turn Clouds encore, which is always I think a good spot for that song. So that's it for me for Nashville Night 1.
Weren't they getting ready to play something else for Magic Carpet Ride? Didn't we think it was something else? We think it was Dark Horse or something that was coming.
I think we were just hoping that it was anything else.
Yeah, I
Possibly.
No, I agree. I think this set, just like looking at it, I'm staring at it on paper right now. Well, actually, my computer screen, so not paper. But it's just odd. Yeah, not the best born. Trying something different's always nice, and the Rockdale is overshadowed immediately. In hindsight, now even more. I don't like Seekers right here, and then Yeti is cool, but I don't know. It just felt like an odd set too. It's almost like kind of running out of steam from the first week of coming back after Goosemas. And yes, beautiful Turn Clouds. It just feels odd. Like I don't think I would ever put this set back on.
I like this Rockdale. I mean, it's not nearly as good as the Rockdale that's about to come, but it's the best Rockdale to date. So that's worth noting. Well, in my opinion, it's the best Rockdale to date. And if you grew up in Connecticut
to March 4th, like it's the best Rockdale to March 4th.
Yeah,
that's not how we do it.
Okay. But in any case, moving on. If you grew up in Connecticut like I did, which none of you guys did, Magic Carpet Ride is a tune that like Max Creek used to play all the time, and that was the one that would bring the house down like when they played it. So I have a soft spot in my heart for Magic Carpet Ride. I love this as like a set 2 closer. This Magic Carpet Ride was long and didn't do much, which kind of is a theme of this second set. It's very long and didn't do much in like a lot of different spots, except for Born, which where the hell did the jam go? I don't know. But yeah, that is what it is. And, Turn Clouds is an encore. I also like. I was kind of joking about it on Twitter, like saying like I would have picked a more upbeat tune for encore. But the funny thing is on the soundboard for this, you can hear a guy like scream like "There is a God" as they start it, which is pretty funny because I think a lot of folks are chasing it. I think that was a good thing that folks are talking about, like on another podcast, how they're chasing this tune.
One. All right. Well, moving on to the second night of Nashville. It's funny. I think the second set of night 1 and the first set of night 2, and then obviously the first set of night 1 and the second set of night 2 would kind of, if you swap them, one of the shows would be way. I kind of bungled the delivery on that one. Well, but I think the first set of night 1 would go much better with the second set of night 2.
I'm just really excited to talk about California Magic's cousin in this first set here.
Spiritual cousin.
Spiritual cousin, I'm sorry.
Hold on, hey, Ryan, real quick. Before we actually get into Nashville Night 2,
I thought that was
I want to call out the possible MVP of Nashville, which was the good night's sleep that I think the band got between night 1 and night 2.
Oh, for sure.
I think there's something to that. I think that I think a good night's sleep in a bed in a town that you're familiar with, at least from the night before, tends to do these guys really well. Same thing in Philly.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Not in DC, though.
Okay.
Argument destroyed.
It doesn't work every time.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's not jump into
a pretty good
theory
success
about why night 2 of DC didn't go so well. Just saying, like somebody might have been hanging around set break or sound check. And like just ruining the vibe. Not going to name any names.
You know what?
Ooh, ouch.
That same person was there at soundcheck on night 1.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Ignoring you.
Do it. Say whatever you want. Say whatever you want.
Okay, Nashville, night 2.
Nashville, night 2, set 1. Jive 2, Jive Lee, Lead the Way, Earthling or Alien, California Magic. Not a ton to say about this set. Not a ton happening. Really I think the best jive Lee since T5, possibly best jive Lee since 10, 19, 20. It hasn't done a whole lot recently. But outside of that, nothing much really happening here.
Oh man,
I think it was a fun. Jive 2 is one of my favorite openers. Just a great song. I've seen it open a couple shows now. Denver, in Sculpture Park, I think, Louisville. It's fun. It kind of gets, nice and slow, good build, a lot of organ. Like you said, Jive Lee's my highlight for sure. It had some really good elements on the back end. And unique, like before we've kind of seen it be a little typical, straightforward, kind of an 8 to 10 minute song. So it was nice to see it kind of spread its legs a little bit. Oh, stretch its legs.
I think you guys are crazy. 30 minutes of Jive 2, Jive Lee to start a show? Like, that's incredible.
26.
Sorry. 26.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
27, almost 28.
Anyways.
All right. That's a lot of Jive to start a show, and I'll take it any show. Any first set. First 2 songs? Absolutely. That is a great way to open a show. I think it's a harbinger of things to come. And I also really like Lead the Way in this set. There's a huge, like, soaring peak in that jam that I absolutely loved, and I wish they kind of played it a little bit longer. And, like, man, I can't wait until they play this song like 20 plus minutes again, because it's going to absolutely kick ass.
Have they ever?
I don't know if they've hit 20 with it, but they've come close to 20 with it. They've done a couple extended versions.
Not since 2019 though.
Yeah. And Neal, I totally agree. This set took a lot of flack online, and I understand that it's short. So I can accept that. But yeah, I agree. I thought Jive 2, Jive Lee Lead the Way. That's a great first, almost 40 minutes of music. And
I'm sorry. Wait. You went from being like, no, it's not 30. You're calling it almost 40
with Lead the Way. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, with Lead. I thought you just meant Jive 2, Jive Lee.
Almost 40.
Say almost 40 minutes.
30, but almost 40.
And then
continue.
And then obviously, I think on paper we see, California Magic 7 closer. What's going on there? I don't have the picture in front of me, but I seem to remember that I think maybe Echo was on the list to close first set. I don't know. I was hoping maybe one of you guys would remember. But anyway, there certainly was some kind of audible there to end that set early versus maybe going longer than they would have liked to have gone. So that's a call that they make in the moment. And, I guess we can always debate whether or not they got it right. Yeah,
sure. And then, I think we have a lot to say about the second set. Is it the best set they've ever played? Maybe. Echo, Rosewood, Echo, Arcadia, Bird, State of the Art, AIOU, and then a Dripfield encore. Pretty incredible stuff. Rick really rides that chorus, like that kind of dissonant-ish chorus effect of his throughout Echo. Rosewood, I would say, is probably the 4th best jam of this set. And then Arcadia, I think it was one of you who said Trevor. It's Trevor's fault that they did that Wolfman's Brother jam.
That's me. Yep.
And then Redbird continues to deliver every single time it's played. And State of the Art is it's a great cover of theirs, and Dripfield is awesome. You guys can go more in detail on this.
Well, yeah, this in my opinion is absolutely the best set 2 and encore that they've ever played. And Echo is phenomenal. It's in my top shit. I think it might even be in my top 5. And I have it as my second ranked Echo behind Portland. But this is another really good one. It's got a nice chill, patient jam, nice melodies, a fiery peak, and the Rosewood has a lot of good Rosewoods. We've been talking about that. This is probably actually like my 4th ranked Rosewood. So I think I agree with the sentiment of where it would rank within the set even. But this Rosewood does have a really huge peak just coming out of the first, proper jam of the song. And I also love the somewhat of an ambient breakdown at the end, which sets up a real nice return to just the closeout, the closing of Echo with the vocal refrain. And then Arcadia with another. I love how we're getting the slow ending type like jam, and then we get into the regular, full speed ending. Only change I might have made to this set is maybe swapping Redbird and State of the Art. But I love the list is near perfect in terms of the song selection. Not even getting to Dripfield as the encore, but the Redbird also really good. I like how from about 15 minutes or so on, I really love this Redbird jam. They almost kind of do like a quick pause. Like they come down on the one beat. It's almost a real quick pause and then a big drop on the two beat. And they kind of all, I think Rick starts that and everybody catches on. And by the end where this, where it builds to a peak just from that,
where the bird is taking flight.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. And then Dripfield as an encore. I mean, I'm sure everyone was psyched. So yeah, like I said, for me, this is absolutely the best set to encore combination that they've done.
I don't think I can say anything that Jive hasn't said, other than a highlight of the set is State of the Art. It is an amazing cover tune, and I think when we listen to jam bands, we kind of like give them room to like be sloppy or like not execute well.
Pass on the vocals.
Yeah, and then, just like do a tune and be like, oh man, I really love that tune, but like, the execution wasn't really great. I mean, people pay big money to see bands go out and do tunes just like this with no jams and execute it as well as Goose did. And just hear that, like no jams, right? But
do those bands play to a click track, Neal?
Well,
some of them do.
I'm sure they do. But like this cover is outrageously good for a jam band. Outrageously good for a jam band. And, I'll die on that hill.
They're an indie groove band.
It's good for any band.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. There's so much amazing shit going on in this set. Like I can talk about everything for like forever, but like I really wanted to put an underscore on this State of the Art. It's probably the best one in my opinion that they've played. I think everyone is fantastic. Everything hit perfect. And it was just so precise and so tight.
And let me just say, Neal, I certainly didn't mean to diminish State of the Art by suggesting that it swap in the order that it was played.
Yep.
I was really saying that to say that there's nothing else about this set that I would have changed.
Yep.
That's how good it is. But I love State of the Art, and it absolutely worked as a closer here.
I think he was trying to talk about something that you hadn't already talked about.
That's what I was shooting for. Otherwise, I could have said just repeated everything Jive said.
Let me circle back then and add that to mine.
Right on. But no, that Echo Rose is beautiful, and I agree. That's like in my top. I don't know. I think it might be in my top 5. Incredible jam. I was listening to that on my commute today, and I was like punching the ceiling of my car as I was like driving in. It's a spectacular jam. It's really good. And then the Wolfman's Arcadia is absolutely Trevor's fault, and I love it, and I love him for it. Oh, and Dripfield Encore. Like, what else can be said? I would have had drip. Way better notes for this whole entire tour if I didn't listen to this Dripfield like 100 times.
Damn it. Neal, how could you?
Yeah, no, it is what it is.
All right. Then they had a nice day off in Tennessee before moving on to Knoxville on March 7th. First set, Time to Flee, Travelers, Doc Brown, Wisteria Lane, Dr. Darkness, Lookout Cleveland. I mean, obviously the Lookout Cleveland was a warning for what would come later in the week. But, Flea opener kind of did what Flea has done this leg, stayed in that very upbeat, blissy jam, peaked very nicely, a lot of strong Rick, but doesn't rank too high. And I take this Wisteria that is phenomenal, but it's kind of obviously not on the level of San Francisco or DC, but it's still really, really good. Again, more of that incredible drum-led jamming, just fantastic stuff. And yeah, I really, really love this Wisteria upon re-listen.
Well, I'll jump in here. So... Yeah, just a quick run through this set, Ryan. I agree with everything you said. The Flea was great jam to open the show. Not a whole lot there that we haven't heard before, but great. Always nice to see Flea opening a show. I like it there. I don't think we got don't want to skip over Travelers. Love the tune. Doc Brown, I was going to say, I don't think we got the Doc Brown effect at this show.
Don't think so either.
Like we saw DC1, and then of course many times throughout the history of Doc Brown. This Wisteria was more of I would say more of a dance party than the darkness of the other two monster versions that we've seen, but I mean, it's still so great that there's no bad version. That's for sure. I do know that one of the things that I've seen a lot from Peter this tour this year, and this Wisteria is another great example of that, is just the lush kind of soundscape that he creates. And I think almost especially more so, it seems like with a lot of the two guitar songs, Peter's very inventive with how he creates all of that, that lush soundscape underneath what Rick and everyone else is doing. But this was good. It felt like it felt like they were heading in a really cool direction. Just like if you listen to the final minute or so of this Wisteria, it sounded like somebody wanted to go somewhere, and it sounded pretty cool. And then they somewhat, I think, abruptly went into Dr. Darkness instead. So, and then the Lookout Cleveland, some really cool stuff here as well. They almost similar, some really cool stuff actually, almost similar to the Portland Echo, that really cool, almost carnival type psychedelic part of that Portland Echo. You hear a little bit of that here. Trevor dropping some staccato bass notes and everyone else kind of dancing around that. Not nearly as psychedelic or long as what they did in Echo, but that's what it reminded me of, and it was still pretty cool. And I just love that. I love that kind of experimentation that we're seeing. And yeah, that wrapped up the Cleveland, and overall another kind of I would say good, not great, but that's a good set. Couple really nice jams.
Yeah, I think it's a fun show, and this set in particular that, like you said, Brian, it's going to be overshadowed for me just in terms of some of like the versions or what I want to listen to. But in the moment, and like that's what I love. Great songs. Solid. Time to Flee is always a great opener. I think, like Ryan said, they're finding that pattern of kind of the bliss and nice peak. I'll listen to Travelers any day of the week. I've loved Peter's synth work on it. It's continued to get stronger, little bits of variety through each version. Not a ton. We'll never get that Bingo Tour plus 15-minute jam, unfortunately, but I can hope. And yeah, the Wisteria, I thought the same thing, Brian. It's sort of like I listened back to it, and it's almost like they took it's like 8 minutes to kind of get somewhere. And those triggers, correct me, right, Ryan? Peter's triggering the synth, sort of just like a patch basically, and sort of a washing synth. That's kind
correct.
of, yeah. So I've loved that. I think it fits perfectly in this song. And yeah, good Cleveland. Like Cleveland's a great cover now that they've shown to bring very high energy, and I think just closes a set really well. So fun set. Nothing I'm going to go back to a ton, but yeah, I liked it.
I miss jammed out Doc Browns in the 2 slot.
Yeah, right.
That would definitely be nice.
This Time to Flee, like it jumps out at you, right? It's over 22 minutes. So you would kind of expect something like Fall of 21, where it's like kind of like really spacey and like kind of psychedelic, and it doesn't do that. It actually sounds like older Fleas, which are kind of more like rockers and ragers. And it was pretty good. I liked it a lot. The cool thing about this set, I think, is Wisteria and kind of emphasizing what Brian was saying about Peter and kind of laying textures under the jam. And Peter's the star in this. And then it actually comes in later in the show in set 2, where Peter really crushes it as well. But this Wisteria lane is kind of bolstered by Peter's rhythm playing. I really love the way that he was like stacking effects in this. Like there was like a good amount of like him using like delay and the phaser at the same time. Yeah, this is a great Wisteria Lane. A distant third to the other two that they've played in 22, but still spectacular.
Yeah. Moving on to the second set, we've got Empress, Silver Rising, Flow Down, Spirit of the Dark Horse, Maskanada, and a So Ready Encore. I feel like Empress, Neal will laugh and say, I told you so, but I feel like, it's kind of doing a lot of the similar stuff that it did in 2021, but now that the novelty of it is gone, of it being a 20-minute song, I feel like it doesn't hit the same. And, I don't have a single version of Empress on my bracket. And so now I wonder if going back and looking at 21 with this hindsight, would I have ranked as many versions of Empress in my top 64? Not sure.
You couldn't have ranked any more.
Hey, you know what? I could have. There was a 10-minute version at Sculpture Park that I didn't rank.
There's also 16 more songs this year. Give yourself a break, kid.
Yeah, well, regardless, Empress, I'd like to see in this second set opening slot. I think it works really well here. Doesn't do a whole lot, obviously. Silver Rising, as mentioned before, love this song. Flow Down mid-second set is a flow down mid-second set. Dark Horse, kind of not really doing a ton. The new arrangement is slowly growing on me, but still not really sticking out jam-wise. And then kind of, thought it was heading somewhere and then went into Maskanada, which I think, could have just continued the Dark Horse jam instead of going into the other song. And then a So Ready Encore is a So Ready Encore. So, solid set, nothing crazy to speak of. I would definitely take set 1 over set 2 in this show.
Let me quote my friend Kevin by saying, I don't always revisit Knoxville set 2, but when I do, I go right to that Silver Rising.
Thank you.
No, Ryan, I agree on the Empress talk. And now, when we do go back and listen to Empress from Perry, that one's always going to stand out. So well, I don't think
Perry holds up.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Perry here.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, so some of that definitely does hold up, but yeah, I agree. I mean, it has lost a little bit, and so maybe it is something where it's like, hey, we just bang out a hot, straightforward, rockin' 15-minute version, or we try to do something a little bit different. It kind of feels like they're sticking close to where they always try to take it, and so it never ends up feeling incredibly different. And then, in Aspen, of course, they probably went maybe too far at the other end of the spectrum and really tried to change things up maybe too much. But anyway, that said, yeah, Silver Rising is good. Flow Down here, it's just another one where I think maybe most of us agree that, yeah, probably first set, either as a flopener, which I don't love that term actually, as a set 1 opener. Or
what does that stand for?
Or like in the 3-hole or something.
Flow down opener. What do you, Kev?
I just wanted to get him to say it again, Ryan.
Oh, flopener? Yeah. I don't know. It sounds like it could.
What about a flancourt?
Yeah, it sounds like something D would say to make us laugh. and then this Dark Horse, I feel like this Dark Horse was a little bit cleaner in some ways, but I think I still prefer Minneapolis to, if we're comparing just these two newer kind of versions that they're playing, or these new arrangements, if you will. And I'm right there with you, Ryan. I'm not 100% sold on the new arrangement, but yeah, I don't hate it either. So I think I'd just like to hear them work with it a little bit more and kind of see where it goes.
And I think it would work better with the Thunder outro. Don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it almost feels like the way they're headed with this, the Thunder opener fits less. And I think that's maybe part of what I don't like so much about this new arrangement is it feels like a little bit more, it's been a little more ouncy, and I feel
and they kind of work that, Rick's opening part to the Thunder outro, they kind of work it into this new arrangement of Dark Horse, kind of in the middle. But yeah, no, I think we all would agree that we would love to see the Thunder outro come back, please.
Yes.
Yes.
For sure.
It hits live.
I
I like this dark horse. I think it's really good. I think Peter continues with like incredible guitar playing and parts. You know, like stacking effects, doing like a really excellent underscore of Rick's playing. Like I don't think like Rick knocks it out of the park necessarily, but it's still like really good. You know, I don't want to say I was like right about Empress of Organos, but Mascanetta is one of my favorite Goose covers, and I hope they play it all the time. It always hits great, and it's an excellent set two closer. You know, it's not a jam that's going to bring the house down, but it's it's a party, and I love it.
I think it's a set two closer in a bar.
Oh
Yeah,
come on!
But I love the song. And they do rip
that.
it. I mean, they absolutely rip it. I mean,
I hear that.
Yeah, I think
I'll take it, but you know, not when they're truncating a dark horse jam for it.
Yeah, that's my one argument against it. I think here as well, that's probably the best moment of the set for me. Well, it is. I think it is the best moment of the set. If they're trying something new, I agree. You know, and listening back, like you said, Brian, whether you want a little unce, a little biscuits, whatever it is, they're bringing a different sound than what they have, and I think we've seen a little bit more. I think back to actually in hindsight now, first night of Denver to close the tour in November, we sort of got that set two with like the Creatures, and they're trying to go sort of a mood, like a dance mood, and I think that it'll work as we see it evolve. It's still not really clicking for me. I don't love the new arrangement too, so I think I have sort of that sour taste of how I want the song to be sang, and it's not happening. So you know, whatever. It's the same thing, kind of a show I'm not going to go back to a ton. I think it's great, and that's also speaks to how strong this tour was. I'm not knocking. It's not a bad show. Once again, it's a very good show that's just not memorable for me.
There's too much that's better.
Yeah,
it's the least best.
There, that's fair.
Moving on to March 9th in Royal Oak. I was at this show again. We've got first set, Born, SOS, Life on the Shelf, Rosewood, and Jeff Angborg. You know, this is a cool Born because we see, the culmination of the different arrangements that have come forth so far. I think I agree with Brian's earlier assessment that the Seattle one is my favorite. You know, you've got the synth build and that groove jam out the back. This is obviously the longest one to date so far. Solid, but doesn't go outside of the song very much. This SOS, the energy in the room at this show was awesome, and SOS just blows up any room it's played in. But nothing outside the box here. But that's not an issue for this song. Shelf was Shelf. Then we got the longest jam that Goose has ever played. I think this Rosewood, at 38 minutes is really, really good. I think, the first big chunk of it, they're doing what Rosewood normally does, getting into that kind of like driving groove kind of outside the song that it hits on in most versions. But I think it really starts to pick up when it lands in that Echo of a Rose jam. I especially Neal, we all thought that they were segueing, so I'm sorry to everybody that thought they were getting Fantasy Goose points.
We didn't all think that.
During this jam. I thought they were at the show. I'd be surprised if you weren't, because they were playing Echo of a Rose.
They were jamming it.
Wait, can we pause on this Echo of a Rose thing and get that out of the way? Because I won't be able to continue if we don't talk about it. They absolutely played that song.
False.
They
jammed it. Yeah.
They played the song, but they didn't sing it, so it doesn't count.
Which is absolutely right. And I have to say this one thing. So when Peter hit the clav, it was like, this is absolutely Echo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how Jive laid off of actually hitting send on that tweet. We've never discussed this, and we should have discussed this at some point. You would think it would have come up after all the shit I took.
You know what?
No, I can say,
News. I thought I mentioned, if I was doing setlist thread, I would have tweeted Echo.
Yes, you would have.
No doubt. So, Jive,
you know what, Kev? I don't appreciate your tone.
How did you lay off of that, Jive? What led you to lay off of
what's your secret?
tweeting that? Yeah. Or did you delete your shit really fast and like nobody saw it?
No, people would see it. Come on.
This is Jive Goose we're talking about here.
Yeah,
People
look,
have notifications on.
You know, there's an art to
Okay.
to arriving at the certainty that's necessary to make a call, and that just comes with experience. So it's not something that I could teach you. It's just something I think that you have to observe, and and then just spend time practicing.
The art of setlist threads makes you extraordinarily humble.
So I actually have a serious question here.
Okay.
So this transition from, almost echo, what happened there? Was it something that was planned? Do you think it was something that was like a mistake and they just kind of wrote it out? Like, what happened there?
I think they just kind of landed on the theme, and then they were kind of looking at each other on stage, and just kind of, it seemed like they were laughing about it.
Yeah, I mean that was 23 minutes into Rosewood. Yep. So obviously, I think what was happening is they were doing what they do, which is just kind of let things evolve and kind of just ride the wave. And
that's where they ended up.
Yeah, that's just where they ended up. And then they clearly made the decision, and who knows whether or not this was something that was communicated in some way or not. But I mean, they clearly made the decision that, no, we're not going to pull the trigger on that. But they wrote it out for a good 3 or 4 minutes where it was a full on echo jam. And
yeah, fully, for sure.
It was good. And, they didn't play the song, Neal. But I think it also, the Rosewood got really, really good after the echo jam too. I think that's when it really started to go really outside the box. And then Angborg, closing the first set for the second time this tour. Absolutely exceptional placement. I think this is the best of the 3 Angborgs they've played so far. I think the way that Spuds absolutely just locks into the groove of this song on the hi-hat and popcorn snare, and Peter just tears away at the clav. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's a cool.
Shout out Jeff Angborg. Thank you for writing this song.
It's it fits well too. I think looking at it, SOS kind of gives a similar vibe. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I like it too. Upbeat tracks. Fun, super fun set. I think the night off helped a lot for the band, and I'm sure it was a cool show to be at. I had a lot of friends there, and this song, I think, like we've talked about it, and while maybe none of in like this version too, I think it's sort of as hasn't been stated, but just because it's the longest jam band's ever played, maybe it's definitely not my favorite jam they've ever played. So there's something to be said in that. But at the same time, taking risks. The song itself, Rosewood, I think has really ever since South Farms 2020, just really kind of taken hold as one of their stronger jam vehicles in ways that it's sort of a different track for me than some of the other bigger songs. It's a little more beautiful, pretty, kind of slower to start, but finds these sort of spaces where it's very driving, as Ryan said. And I'm of the team, because I heard this version actually the next day, and I remember telling you guys when I first heard it, or the first time I did, and it was like, Peter is playing the echo part on the keys. And then when he hits the clav, it's like, oh, Jesus. Well, I thought they were just talking about this like key part. When it was the clav, I full on. So I'm with Neal. They don't, drop it though. So props to Brian for holding off. Well done, sir. That's why he's the champion,
Oh, thank you very much. Well, technically you're the champion.
He's like making a fucking sandwich during all that. Like, come on. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Two or three quick notes about this set from me. So Born, again, we didn't get the slow build. They did the piano jam again. I thought this was executed better than Nashville, but obviously I prefer that kind of more Rick-led slow build. Big 2001 jam here. Seattle's still the GOAT for me. Rosewood, this was awesome. And you said it, Dee. I mean, length doesn't necessarily mean, that it's the best. And this probably, I think it's in my top 10 right now, but it probably won't be even top 10 or 15 by the end of the year. There's no real killer unique sections that get stuck in my head or anything like that. But when you look at some of the other extra long kind of jams this year, like Madison Rosewood, Madison Arrow, DC Arrow, this one more consistently held my interest throughout. Mm-hmm. And at 37 and a half minutes, that's that's a long time to do that. And I think Ryan mentioned that this smashes the 11-16-19 drive, which was just over 30 minutes, as the now longest track that we know of, at least. And then also, this was the longest set one of the year so far. 92 minutes.
Wow.
Only thing I can add is I'll dispute the fact that this, 37 and a half minutes track is all Rosewood Heart, because it's not. But
it has an echo jam in it.
It has a huge echo jam in it. And then, well, whatever. And, Born, 20 minutes of Born to start a show is, it's a hell of a lot of Born, and it's awesome. Not as great as like other Borns, but man, I'll take that. Like any show, like Born,
best Born of this tour, man.
Show. Like you get 35 minutes of like really awesome music to start the show. That's a hell of a first set starter. And then, Engborg to close it. I'm on record. It's a spiritual cousin of, like
no, we're not going to. I can't hear what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. I'm talking over you, so that was not heard by anybody.
On record. You can play me on Twitter. Let's go.
We will. Everybody tweet Neal on Twitter about that, please. Second set, 726, Madhavan, Dr. My Eyes, Yeti, and a Butter Rum encore. It's cool to see 726 get the kind of This Old Sea treatment of this outro jam. I will say it was really, really nice, but another one of those things where it doesn't really do a whole lot for its 20 minutes. This was a really long gap for 726 as well. I know it had shown up on set lists a couple of times, but didn't end up getting played. But again, such a great tune. Madhavan comes next, brings the house down. Everybody was going crazy for this. Shout out to Noah Ray. I could see Doug aggressively losing his drugs.
The worst.
While this was happening. Just from my vantage point, I could see Noah's hands in the air from the rail. This Madhavan is so cool just because of the first minute or two of the jam when they get into this really spooky mode. Peter uses the organ, and right as I was watching him, hit that like high dissonant note, I was like, reach for that reverb pedal. And then he reaches for his reverb pedal on his organ, turns it up, and it just gets like super crazy, more of that like kind of carnival vibe because of the dissonant organ. Really, really great kind of a jam for that first couple of minutes of the Madhavan. And then it continues, it went in kind of a similar fashion to last summer's Legend Valley version, though to not as great of an effect with that stop-start jam. Really, really great Madhavan. Dr. My Eyes came next. A little bit of a kind of an abrupt break in the flow of the set. I don't think it worked as well here as some of the other placements that it has in the past. And then, we got a jammed out Yeti, which was great. Nothing groundbreaking improvisation wise, but for a Yeti, this was really, really good. Kept that dance vibe up the song normally has, but going outside the box. And, you can tell if a Yeti's going to be jammed out based on how Peter starts his solo. And he started this one a little bit more subtly and more quiet. But it's cool. And then Butter Rum continues its tear as a jam vehicle in the encore. Gets a little bit outside the box there. Yeah, that's what I got for this second set.
Well, I'll say this about 726. It takes about 12 minutes for them to get out of the actual tune, right? And then they jump into what amounts to like a Dragonfly jam that doesn't get noted as Dragonfly. And, it's good, I guess. Madhavan, I don't love as much as like other people. Like it feels like the kind of more sloppy version of what was done in Legend Valley. And, it's good. It's good. I'll go back and listen to that Madhavan. Like, so I'm not going to hate on it. Dr. My Eyes is always like an awesome cover. this Yeti in the set like might be the standout for me. This Yeti rips, and it does what like I think all Yetis should do. There's a spectacular funk jam in this tune. I think everybody's like really on like throughout the whole entire band. This is a Yeti that I will go back and listen to. It's not going to land like anywhere near the top 30 of like my like Jam of the Year playlist, but it's a kick-ass Yeti. And, you know, yeah, they should do more Yetis like this one because, you know, sometimes Yeti can be kind of an afterthought in a set. This Yeti really was like a pretty great part of the set.
I would challenge the use of the word sloppy in that Madhavan. Go back and definitely, you said it yourself, go back and listen to it. I did it the other day a couple times. And the Thornville section is a little bit looser than what they played then, but I wouldn't characterize it as sloppy. It's still a really good version. It didn't make my top 20, but I felt really bad for the jam that it did not.
Yeah, I would second that, the questioning of that. And you know, it's funny because Ryan used the word carnival as well, and I basically referred to, and it's like it's almost about 5 minutes to start off that jam where I called it an evil carnival jam, and there's some really cool stuff there, and that's not part of the Legend Valley, but obviously, and yeah, there is something to be said about the comparison to Legend Valley because I noted that as well. I think we all heard some similarities there. And I would probably challenge the aggressiveness of the Yeti love as well, but that's probably just comes down to personal opinion. I wasn't as fired up for the Dr. Maya's Yeti butter rum finish to this set, let's say. So, and for that matter, I mean, the 726 for its length, I think is just another one of those, like we've said before, where yeah, you know, it's long and it's a nice enough jam, but not a whole lot there that I'd probably go back to. It you know, people want to talk about GOAT status and all that type of thing. Yeah, it probably gets it based on the length alone, but you know, not much else there going on to keep me coming back for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for GOAT 726, I think the Legend Valley version from last year is a better use of its time. But yeah, I agree. Just based on length alone, this objectively becomes the GOAT. Moving on to Cleveland, March 10th.
Look out!
First set, Tumble, Writing a Novel, Turned Clouds, Bob Dawn, Rockdale. You know, this Tumble was a really cool way to open a show. Another really, really long jam, you know, almost 29 minutes, you know, when you factor in the crowd noise at the beginning. Some pretty heavy Creatures teasing, at least I heard from Peter around the middle of this jam. But I think, you know, while it didn't do anything crazy, I think it was still really, really good Tumble. I think I currently have it above Tempe for the top Tumble of the year, but it could change.
Yep.
Yeah, and absolutely phenomenal segue into Writing a Novel.
Yeah.
I mean, this worked really well, but another one of these earning that full arrow segue on the set list. Writing a Novel is a great tune, great cover. Turned Clouds, as we mentioned before, solid tune, does well mid first set. Bob Dawn with. I feel like this song just keeps getting slower, which
Love it.
I'm not sure if I'm that much of a fan of.
I do. I like it.
And then we've got the Rockdale to close the set. The Rockdale.
Yeah, buddy.
Going down to the Goat Dale. Gonna lay it all down for you.
I mean, just judging by the sounds that Kev is making right now, I think he's a fan of this Rockdale.
That was, I think his reaction to my voice singing, but
All right.
It could be either one, but this is just an incredible use of its time. You know, from the moment that they ventured outside the song. You know, Peter on that vibraphone patch on the Nord, kind of leading into that last section, and then an absolutely perfect return. You know, exploding back into the song. You guys talk about this one. Absolutely,
Ryan,
incredible.
that Nord patch. That's the xylophone sound effect towards the end there.
Xylophone, vibraphone.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
I think B wrote like 1,000 words on this one.
Yeah, talk, man. What you got to say?
So let me back up real quick to the Tumble, because this is another one where, in particular, I was noticing talked about a little bit earlier what Peter's doing with 2 guitar jams in terms of not just his rhythm playing, but also the effects and the loops that he's using. It's sounding really good to me, and it creates such a rich sound. No pun intended. That's lowercase r rich sound, and it's a nice airy jam. And yeah, the first probably 15 or 16 minutes is pretty straightforward, just a nice energy tumble jam. And then it opens up a little bit, and then Peter comes in, dropping the Creatures teases, and the momentum kind of picks up with that. And it's probably not the equivalent to the Echo jam in the Rosewood. It's not quite a Creatures jam, I wouldn't say, but there was a lot going on there. And then, yeah, I love that you said that too, Ryan. The segue into I'm writing a novel was really, really good. And you might not normally think about segueing into I'm writing a novel as a dope segue, but there it was.
It was great.
And the Rockdale, it's the Goatdale, and it's, I think, about 8.5 minutes or so. You get a sense right away that they're headed off the standard Rockdale path. It's a bit of a Ted style kind of breakdown into a nice, gentle, quiet jam, soft bed of piano, if you will. And then
gentle,
soft bed of piano. And then Rick starts in with just a real, almost like a hypnotic progression that just repeats and builds steam. And by 12 minutes or so, it just explodes. And it's not necessarily in a super like high tempo way, but it's just a triumphant sounding jam. Like you were talking about earlier, Neal, like where you pump your fists in the car type shit.
Yes, sir.
And, a few minutes of that, and then things start to get weird. There's delayed Plinko-ish kind of notes and more Evil Carnival sounds, and then back to some serene calm. And that's where Peter kind of breaks out the vibraphone sounds, which adds a really super cool vibe to this whole part. And then 20 minutes or so, Ben and Jeff then have things moving again. Peter's still rocking the vibraphone, Rick doing cool rhythm work, and then it just builds. And then, like you said too, the transition back to Rockdale is so sick. I mean, this is not only, we're joking around about Goatdale. I mean, it's obviously the Go Rockdale, but this is in my number 3 spot of all my jams right now for the year. So, yep. I mean, just
Same here.
Sick jam.
Yeah, and before we move on really quick, before you guys talk, I just want to give a shout out to my dad, Rob Don. This was his first show, and he turned to me at set break and was like, "Rockdale is my new favorite Goose song." After seeing that,
makes sense.
But
yeah, it better be.
It was just, if I might share a special thing for me. He took me to my first show at Blossom, which is right near Cleveland, in 2012. And almost 10 years later, I took him to his first Goose show in Cleveland. So that was really cool.
You can't make that up, folks.
That's touching stuff.
That's
synergy. Great.
Type 2 storms.
It was great.
Synergy.
But he had a great time. And
I'm not going to add much more to what you guys said, Ryan. Brian obviously just gently laid his words all over our ears regarding the Rockdale. But the tumble writing a novel, I thought it was interesting because the last time we heard writing a novel in San Francisco, a slow tumble followed. Here we flip it and have a heavy hitter. Great version. I think it's another one like,
you
it's
just
odd.
blew my mind.
Dude, it's odd that some of these songs that we're getting these massive jams on, we're clamoring at times, me especially, it's like long, you want some length. And then like sometimes we get these heavy, long songs and, it doesn't always do that, get to kind of the places we need it to. I think though, they're taking risks. Rest of the set's great. It's all the Rockdale for me. There's the Plinko part's really cool too. I think that's one to note if people are listening to any jam from this show. That's it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of jams that have parts. Like if you think back to All I Need
Me
from
too.
Pine Creek, there's like a whole bunch of parts that like you can look back to. All I Need, like I'm still sad. Just got eliminated this week from the bracket.
Shout out.
But I think this Rockdale like kind of like harkens back to that a little bit. Like it's got a bunch of different parts that you can go back and listen to and like really enjoy. But there is like one part, like the soaring part of this Rockdale where man, it's so beautiful. Like Jai was saying, like, you know, it's like the punch the roof or like part of the jam, and man, it's so good. And then also, let's not forget, there's a Bob Dunwith in the set, and Bob Dunwith is like, you know, it's not an afterthought. It's an amazing thing, and it should be in every first set.
Yeah, I kind of lost my shit a little bit when they did the with.
Hell yeah.
You know, my dad looked at me a little weird when I started screaming. But yeah. You ready to move on to set 2, or
Let's do it.
I think this is a really incredibly cohesive set right here. Echo, Into the Mist, Old Man's Boat, Use Me, Dripfield. You know, I think there's nothing crazy here. Like Echo, the jam in it doesn't stand out as much. Into the Mist, great segue from Echo into Mist. Mist, even though it was unfinished, didn't have that big ending that B loves so much, that we all do. It really leans into that dance groove. Really, really phenomenal work here. Disco Mist at its finest. Moving into Boat, you know, which kind of ventured more outside the lines than most boats do, keeping it funky, getting into, that clav-dominated funk groove, and then going into Use Me, which is a huge, huge surprise. Really excited to see that. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe B noted that it was the first Use Me since Coach's Wedding, and before that, July 2017. So the first Use Me in front of, at one of their actual shows with Peter and the band. So that's pretty cool. And then Dripfield was awesome. Really happy to see that one pop up again. It has that interesting Shamalama Bliss jam on the end, which kind of, I think it kind of lowers its stock for me a little bit because it just felt kind of tacked on. But I mean, it was still a great jam, and I really liked it. And it was a great way to close this really amazing set. And then, for the encore, Peter brought out the special guests that we all were really, really excited for.
Billy Strings, that was awesome of them.
Really, really, really great way to, troll the audience a little bit. Because I think, as soon as he said that, the room absolutely went nuts. And then, he's like, "Oh, it's Coach." And we were all like, "Oh, good one." Like, it was funny. And Coach was having a great time on Rainstick for the encore. Shout out Coach. Always got absolutely amazing energy when he's on stage with the band. And apparently that 33 road case that was on stage is always there. But, I wonder if they didn't move it more into view than normal. But Whip It Jively was cool.
God damn that 33 road case, man. I spent like all day on Twitter trying to talk people off the ledge.
Yeah. You got tons of engagement on that, man.
The only thing I've seen Neal call faster than a Billy String sit-in is Echo Barose during
what the hell? No, it's not fair. I spent all day saying like I don't believe it, and like I got roasted like all over the place from accounts I'd never even seen before. And I was like, Neal, listen, like, a band's not going to use, or like Billy Strings is not going to use his off day to like go play like 2 songs with the Goose. Like, it doesn't make sense. And then the 33 road case came up, and I was like, okay, so he's coming out. And then it was like, I got like hundreds of likes on that post. It's probably like my most liked tweet ever.
And it was just you reposting a picture from Facebook.
Are you tracking unlikes?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, if there were downvotes, I probably would have just like absolutely been destroyed on that one. But damn it, man.
Yeah, Neal's right up there. Neal's right up there with Haps. In terms of
bullshit.
People to not believe
hasty goose
anything
news.
They say.
Hasty news.
I reposted a picture. Ah, man. Well, you know what? I deserve it. In any case. It was still an awesome set. Despite the fact that
Despite
strings
Hell of a
show up.
segue. Hell of a segue.
Hey, listen, the really cool thing about that set, I think, is Old Man's Boat.
Yes.
They didn't play much of an Old Man's Boat jam.
Yeah.
Like we talked about this, like kind of off channel. Like there is a moment, probably, shoot, I forget where it is now, but like it's like about 6 minutes, maybe 5 minutes before Old Man's Boat ends, where they very clearly like kind of modulate and get themselves into what Use Me is going to be. And they were so patient with that transition. And like, I'll go back and listen to that Old Man's Boat like a zillion times just to hear that transition. It's so perfect. And that Use Me is really cool. Folks who showed up one day early to Eau Claire got the catch like Use Me. But yeah, that's like the first Use Me in a long time for people. And then like the gigantic drip field that ends that set is spectacular.
Yeah, not much to disagree with here. By the way, I mean, you guys have covered a lot of this. Echo of a Rose, yeah, it's good, but by this year's standards, it's
5 or 6.
Yeah, it's behind Minneapolis, for me in terms of the more kind of Type 1 styles or whatever. Super cool segue into Mist. And yeah, here's your fourth Mist, your fourth unfinished Mist. The letter's out. We'll see what happens. This is a little bit of an atypical jam here, and I think Ryan, you touched on it a little bit, but yeah, this was still like a 15-minute Mist, even unfinished. So they jammed it a little bit slightly differently than they normally do, and then extended out just a couple minutes as well. So I mean, definitely about as good as of an unfinished version, I think, as you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And then can I use the Old Man's Boat? Can I use me the old man? How would we do that?
Okay,
how would we want to do that?
You're trying. you're reaching.
Use me, old man. Use me, old man.
Oh man.
Okay. No, but in all seriousness, like Neal was saying, yeah, this Use Me really started like 11 and a half minutes into Old Man's Boat. That you started to hear the Use Me kind of ish lines. And then they went full into it. It wasn't on the written set list, I don't think, right? So
it was good, but it sounded very rehearsed. So that was great.
Yeah, and Rick must have had it. I assume Rick had it dialed into his lyrics monitor because he nailed everything. So
he's got a foot switch for that, so he can easily scroll down the list of cover songs on there.
Yeah. So assuming they've got cover songs that they haven't played since 2017 in there, I guess was my point, right?
It's a real shame that we don't have any fun recording these.
Huge fan of Use Me though. So I mean, I was super stoked to see this. Like I said, I mean, they crushed it, and there was even some really cool funk tension and release. Would definitely also love to see this get back more into the cover rotation. I could think of some other covers that I would replace with Use Me.
Oh, would you?
Pretty quickly.
How dare you?
Maybe one that was played tomorrow.
I don't know, D. I'm not in tomorrow yet.
We're not there yet.
The next night.
What else we got? What else we got on the second set?
Just Dripfield. I mean, such a sick one. This was less primal banger Dripfield like we've referred to it, and a little bit more drip funk. And you mentioned the Shamalama, and there was a little bit of White Lights jam maybe in there too, kind of adding a novelty effect or whatever. But I feel like even if you cut those out, this is still probably my favorite Dripfield. I mean, I really dug this. Not that matters. And then the encore, they did Devo's Drip It, and then
Whip It.
Jive Lee.
Drip It Lee.
Drip Lee.
Drip It good.
Yeah, I think this show, I could sort of sense in like, we had some of it in Detroit. They're just really hitting steam for me. I think this show kind of feels like, I mean, obviously has longer jams, but this second set for me kind of reminded me of why I loved Fred 2020, 1019. I think of the right date. Yeah. Anyways.
Yes. 1019.
Yeah. 1019. Yeah. And like you said, versions, not as good or strong as some of the other best ones that I have rated higher. We have rated higher, be it Echo, Boat, whatever, but just excellent flow, unique mist. Yeah, the Boat Use Me is just a great pairing. It's my favorite drip field as well. I can't wait to hear this song live. Every time I hear it on a recording now, I'm just like picturing that experience, which is probably the one song I wanted to hear in Philly. Well, I guess we'll get it this summer, but really, really fun set. I listened to this one right before we recorded tonight, and this is like one I could put on as well, front to back, just very fun and a little bit of everything about why I love this band. So.
All right. Well, let's move on to Philly here. First night of March 11th at the Fillmore in Philly. Drive, Earthling or Alien, Indian River, Time to Flee, Jive 1, and Sinnerman. This drive is really cool. I believe it's the first one to completely skip the first jam, but it jumps right into that, second jam. This is really cool. I think we were also discussing at the time when we were webcasting and, D was at the show. Nothing crazy, but really, really enjoyable jam right here. So that was great. Rest of the set, Indian River we see for the first time this year without the Delta-ish jam, just on its own. Flea hits that same, Bliss, Reaching for the Sky, Rick led that we've seen from versions this year. Jive 1 was great, and Sinnerman, great to see that again. Fantastic cover of theirs. Glad to see it pop up for a second time.
You can't sing Singer Man without passion, and Rick has passion when he sings, and I love anytime he's going to sing Sinner Man. Keep doing it.
Yeah, I had a great time. I had a great time at these shows. Shout out to everybody I got to see in Philly. Great 48-hour trip that was really spontaneous and fun. And thank you to my wife, most importantly, for being a rock star here. But
shout out
Marissa, indeed. The drive was really cool. I like you said, Ryan, the fact, and they almost kind of like flipped the jams for me. You had sort of a little more up tempo, and then we got kind of pretty and melodic to finish, followed by Earthling. Not my favorite. I actually literally called both of these songs as the opener. I said it's either going to be Drive or Earthling. Sure enough, we got both, and that helped pave the way to the Golden Goose Championship. So we'll take that. Yeah, fun set. It wasn't. I probably was a little bit disappointed. It was below my expectations, which I hate to have. So that's on me. But listening back to it, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a fun set. Nothing super memorable. Drives earlier, the one from DC, better for me. The Time to Flee is good, but we had one a couple of nights prior that was a little better as well. And Sinnerman was really cool. I didn't expect it. I think in the moment, a lot of people that were at this show were at Goosemas, and I would have been similarly sort of like, wait a minute, just saw this, and it was maybe supposed to be a rare one. So it was great for me, but, fun set. Not the best of what was to come, though. So a lot more. Anybody else?
Interesting to note that Sinnerman is the only song played at this show that was also played at Goosemas.
One I would not expect as well.
Noted.
All right. Second set of the show, we've got Pancakes, Slow Ready, Moby, Ghostbusters Rap, Arise, and Hot Tea. Kind of an interesting set, a little bit up and down for me. This Pancakes is absolutely phenomenal. Just, pretty high on the stack, in my opinion. It doesn't quite break my top 10 of the leg, but it's just outside. Really, really amazing. Slow Ready has an extra little bit of outro arpeggiator stuff on it that leads really, really nicely into the Moby that I was really, really hoping for at any of my shows. So that continues to be what I chase. And I mean, Moby always kills. I think they need to earn the second set landing pad song a little bit more. I think Pancakes definitely earned it, but coming off of the Slow Ready, it was a little bit of an interesting choice. And then going into Ghostbusters Rap, which was a very interesting choice for this placement in the show. Arise is cool to see. Again, interesting placement. And then we get a nice extended hot tea. They've been really playing with some of like the darker vibes, really leaning into that dissonant build on this song so far this year. So that's cool to see, more than just your average 15-minute version of hot tea. And then Creatures Shamalama, is the encore. Creatures Shamalama.
Creatures Shamalama. Yeah, I think the pancakes. Yeah, pancakes. Neal have more. It's up to near the top of my stack, though. I think it's not at the top for sure. It's a good one. We have some of us think of it sort of top 1 or 2, and maybe 3 or 4. It just speaks to, I think, again, the variety of the song. This one gets really nice and dark, a lot darker. Sort of the last kind of 5 or 6 minutes in particular are super unique for what we've seen from the song, and just it was the highlight for me. Like Ryan said, as this show progressed, it was more and more of a head scratcher in the moment. I think the flow of songs like Slow Ready to Moby was cool. Like in isolation, some of these would be great, but it packaged together felt more and more odd. Ghostbusters was really the moment where I was like, what the hell are we doing? And I think a lot of people felt that in the crowd too, and some that were, listening at home, I presume, as well. And Arise is beautiful, but just, Hot Tea was good. It didn't save the set for me, but it was unique. Like it actually was one that I listened back again after the show. And it's fun. It's got some different flavor to it. Like you said, Ryan, kind of the last 5 or 6 minutes, they go somewhere that they don't usually right now. And then we just capped it off with a Creature Shama to just really set the tone for a weird show. So like I was literally walking out as Creatures was going, and I was like, we're going to Shama, boom, let's do it. And like was like, all right, perfect time to leave. Like I'm leaving as Shama's Boston. So it was a really fun show. Venue was
well
cool,
played.
And I had a great experience, but yeah, the best was yet to come again. Anybody else have, Neal, what do we think of the pancakes? Let's hear it.
Man, that's a solid pancakes. But
the real?
It sits there with DC as like kind of like a pretty similar pancakes. I think DC gets a little higher on my list.
Yeah, it's got to be like 4.
Yeah, it's like we're talking mid-stack pancakes here.
Yeah, these are mid pancakes, mids.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what I was going to name this one. I had names for them, but I'm forgetting in the moment.
Not quite swag, but a little.
Was this
it.
one like the Trevor Cakes? This was the Trevor Cakes. Yeah.
You tried to get Trevor Cakes to catch on Twitter.
Well, no, I wasn't trying to. It was like
Neal doesn't try.
Yeah, there's one thing I don't do is try on Twitter. No, I think Trevor really starred in this pancakes. I think he was awesome, but it didn't really go anywhere. I don't know. Like I don't want to say it was bad because it wasn't, because all pancakes are good. But this one didn't do anything like so outrageous as like something like Nashville, right? So
yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah, if I'm stacking my pancakes,
yeah,
I feel like we're doing this a bit too much.
We're stacking cakes.
This one's near the bottom. Sorry, I misspoke.
From the top of my stack down, so they're already stacked. The sitting on top of this stack is Nashville, and then Louisville, and then DC, and then Philly. So it's the 4th pancake down. There's only 2 pancakes below it. No, this is a band that, it's like we said earlier, it's like you come into a town, you got that 2-nighter, and night 1 you're just a little tired, maybe you're looking forward to getting into that hotel, getting that good night's sleep. And so, I think there's that, it's like a reverse hangover effect or something. I don't know what it is, but that's what we saw here. Yeah. Slow Ready, Moby, Ghostbusters rap. Yeah, about this point, I think there were some questions being thrown around the chat. Arise, more questions. Hot Tea was good, but it doesn't make up for that set. Creatures Shama, I would have walked out 2D. That's the right call. Shama was only 3 minutes.
Jesus.
It was. I was trying to beat the crowd. It's Philly. You got to be thick.
Oh yeah, I walked out of hot before. I mean, it's
I didn't. I stayed till the end. How dare you?
Yeah. Well, it was hard to get by the door.
Kev is a #real fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll save the rest of my commentary for the best show of the year.
I stayed for hot. I stayed for hot, and I got the set list. So that's why you stay.
There you go.
That's why you
that's
stay.
the way to do it.
That's why you stay.
Shall we talk about the best show of the year?
Let's do it.
I think that's the general consensus here. Philly Night 2, March 12th. First set, All I Need, California Magic, Dr. Darkness, and Red Bird. I mean, this All I Need is absolutely phenomenal stuff. Relentless from minute 1 to minute 25. I was so surprised that we got a second jam out of this. Really happy that we got the second jam. But that first jam, man, going from melodic, flipping from major to minor, just with ease. Again, relentless is just the word that comes to mind over and over again when I listen to it. So incredible. I want to really highlight what Peter's doing in the second jam, however brief it may be. He is using the organ here in a very different way from how he normally uses it. This is what I mentioned earlier. He's been looking for new directions on the keys. He's been using that vibraphone. He's been utilizing the delay pedal he's got on the clav for more textural stuff instead of just straight shredding. And for the organ, instead of just holding the chord, going for that soaring thing that he does when he peaks jams, which is amazing, he, starts using the organ in more of a lead role, highlighting the percussive sound on it a little bit more, which really, really cool. I hope we see more of this. California Magic, great to see this song again. I think what's attributed to the outro jam here was earlier in the tour attributed to an intro jam to Dr. Darkness. So I'm a little bit hesitant to call this a California Magic outro jam. Whatever it is, it's a nice little couple of minutes of dark space. Very cool. And then we're straight Burden again, just another flamethrower rendition. Always Burden. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, you can. I mean, a 4-song first set. All I Need was like the perfect not even like the perfect opener. It was the perfect opener. And just, yeah, even, and then you have, California Magic and Dr. Darkness back to back. It's like someone could look at that and I think kind of come in with some critique, but those were the two songs that I highlighted earlier as kind of like the other halves of each other and sort of, the dark and the light, and having them paired right next to each other was
spiritual cousins.
Spiritual cousins, yeah. This is the legit spiritual cousin that we've been highlighting with Engborg and Earthling. Supposedly,
don't speak of it.
Supposedly, don't even.
Cousins. So, and then Redbird. Like I said, I posted. It was everything I expected and more. Like just, and it was absolutely fascinating to see how engaged the crowd was actually, like already with this song, that I think it's going to be a favorite. I mean, getting sort of people to sing along. I mean, Arcadia immediately jumps to mind as one, but for being a new song, it was one that everyone was joining in on the harmonizing and
straight Burden, bro.
Straight Burden. I mean, that's all us.
It's like
it's a really lifestyle.
Is so. It was incredible to see it live. I can't wait for Brian and Kev to get theirs.
Time for birds to fly, when it's time for birds to fly.
When it's time for a bird to fly. When it's time.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to grab B's singing all 3 different parts and edit them together.
Oh man, it's this new mic.
The burden just happens.
Yeah, I don't know if any listeners have noticed. 2 hours into this, but B and who else has a new mic? Neal has a new mic.
Yeah.
D, do you have a new mic?
Mine's not working. It didn't plug and play.
Oh. Well, B and Neal have new mics for this episode. B doesn't sound like he's talking through a tin can anymore.
Thank you to our parent company, Stormy Podcast, for the new mics and the sweet office chair and the MacBook Pro. I mean, I feel like I've got a really good setup now.
Did you
forgot to mention the Tesla that I bought you too?
Okay, so the first jam of this All I Need is absolutely monster. Everything you said about it, Ryan, is true. It's
look at me getting credit.
However,
yeah, it's amazing. California Magic, like I said before, love it. Dr. Darkness started off a little run of, well, continued, I should say, the run of new songs. California Magic, Darkness, Redbird, and then Hungersite into set 2. The Redbird, yeah, I really loved Rick's tone here. I think that was one of the differences or subtleties that set this one apart from some of the other ones. This one, I think ended up being a little bit more kind of straightforward rockin' bird. Maybe not for me quite on the same level of the Pittsburgh, but a little bit more in that same vein of being kind of a little bit more kind of party rockin' version. Some two interesting things about this set one. First is that it's tied for the shortest set one of the year, but also I believe this was the first 4-song first set since the Buffalo show in November of 2019.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah, the shortest part of it though probably takes away and detracts a little from me.
Ouch.
But
it's still a fact though, D. I mean,
Yeah.
it's data. It's
it's science. It's hard science.
Facts don't care about your feelings, D.
Yeah. No, I'm more saying that it probably could have used another song, don't you think, Brian? But
do you know how long it took me to look that up and verify that data?
I'm not discrediting your research.
You know how hard he works for his spreadsheet?
You are a saint for the info you provide.
I mean, it's relevant though. Like if you think about the last show that had that short of a first set, that's a pretty incredible first set. Right?
What is that show, Brian?
As I mentioned, it's Buffalo.
No, the shortest set.
Oh my god. You know, anybody who makes it this far into the episode is in for a real treat.
Buffalo.
No, this is like real shit though. Like I mean,
this is high quality stuff.
But this Redbird
So to answer your question real quick, D, it's tied with Goosemas and Nashville 2 at 65 minutes.
Yeah.
And Nashville 2, another phenomenal, what ended up being another phenomenal 2-set show. So anyway.
And I think this one, the Redbird, this had that envelope filter kind of, right? That sort of like almost people would probably.
Yeah, the Mutron.
Mutron, thank you very much. It was sick.
Mutron 4.
Yeah, the Mutron 4, whatever.
4.
Yeah. You're right. This was definitely probably more of like a party bird. We Dirty Bird, Party Bird. It is Philly, so it was appropriate. Set 2, though. Yeah.
Shall we talk about set 2 here? Hungersite, Please Forgive Me, Arcadia, Fish in the Sea, This Old Sea, Factory Fiction. The Sea Duo?
Yeah.
You come up with a name for that yet? Is there a third Sea song? Probably. Somewhere. Hungersite, great to see this song again. I feel like Philly had that kind of vibe where we would see Hungersite again. I'm curious to see if this ends up being a relative rarity or if, once the album comes out, once they, really phase it in, whether it's going to show up more often. But this one was really, really great. Great funky jam that happened. Please Forgive Me showing up again. Fantastic cover. Arcadia with the slow ending again. Doesn't go too outside the box, as we mentioned before. There are other 17-minute Arcadias, for instance, Swansea 2021. Swayze. That go to a lot more different places in their 17 minutes than this one does, but it's still a very solid Arcadia. Fish in the Sea, also solid 15 minutes. This Old Sea, it's funny that one of their most gorgeous ballads has yielded to very dark jams so far this year. Really, really interesting outro to This Old Sea here. Peter kind of loops like arpeggiating vibraphone thing on the Nord. Rick is like dicking around with all his delay pedals, and the rhythm section is doing like a really interesting thing together. It's really cool to watch. I was watching the video today or yesterday, sometime recently, and it was cool because Rick and Peter were both looking at each other and just like being like, oh my God, like this is so cool, like what we're doing right now. Peter starts cackling maniacally into the mic. Like it was just really crazy, demented stuff. And, I kind of rated this a little bit higher. And then Brian reminded me, like take into account that it's only like the last 4 minutes or so of the jam that gets to this space. And, for the most part, it's just This Old Sea. So it's a really, really, really cool jamming style. I think it would be cool if they revisit it in a different way out of a more extended passage of improvisation. But, really cool to see them going in this direction. Definitely the Goose of even a year ago would not even dip their toes into this kind of vibe. And then Factory Fiction closes the set. I think this is the most jammed out Factory Fiction we've seen since Bingo Tour. Really great, doesn't stack up as well as some of the other incredible jams of this tour. And I'm hesitant to say maybe we have a little bit of anti-Factory Fiction bias just because of, how much mystique, if you will, surrounds this song. And then Arrow, fantastic encore pick. Could be the best Arrow of the year. Might be the best Arrow of the year. Probably the most efficient Arrow of the year. So great playing from Rick all around, and a really, really incredible way to close the tour.
Yeah, I thought this was a super fun set as well, Ryan. Hunger Site surprised me quite a bit. It was one I didn't expect. So if as much as I wanted to hear Dripfield, Hunger Site was probably the one I forgot about in the moment. But yeah, really pretty and cool song. Starts off a little like slower and different. I think it definitely surprised the crowd. And then Please Forgive Me, nothing wrong with a little David Gray. Reminds me of my childhood. And but yeah, the last half from Arcadia on, just very clean, like back to back to back to back. This Old Sea is cool how it gets to these spaces, like you said, and they're getting sort of taking that risk of jumping off the edge and the cliff and kind of letting a song dissolve and finding spaces that they haven't usually, and for it to come out of This Old Sea twice now, it's pretty fun. Yeah, Factory Fiction, didn't expect to get it again after seeing it in Louisville so soon, but it was my favorite of the three I've seen now. As I think Denver was probably just for energy my first time, but in terms of the jam itself, this one was great. So yeah, what else are we thinking, guys?
Well, I absolutely love Hunger Site. In fact, I think right now it's probably my favorite of the new batch of songs. And this particular version, obviously they've just played it the 2 times, but this one for me, the jam just seems to get better with each listen. There's a real funky section in the middle, nice crunchy peak, and yeah, maybe you could say there's a slightly awkward finish just in the very final seconds, but I think second time played, all is forgiven. Please Forgive Me, David Gray, decent cover, nice little jam. And Arcadia, more funk, more of the slow Arcadia vibes with the full speed ending like we talked about before. This one's just a little bit more straightforward, I think. And Fish in the Sea, super solid, might be the best since Bingo Tour. I haven't done an A-B of this one in Bingo Tour, but that could be close. And This Old Sea, more of the evil carnival jams. And then Ryan mentioned, it's the last 4 or 5 minutes is that kind of stuff, which, while you might not consider the greatest improv or what have you, but I do love the experimentation, and I love having some of that sprinkled around. I'm always a fan. And then, that also, that kind of craziness set it up for the segue, if you want to call it that, into Factory Fiction. And I agree with you there. 2D, this one's a little bit dirtier, and I think hits a little bit harder than Louisville, while still, maybe you could say, remaining somewhat straightforward. And then the Arrow, it is definitely my favorite Arrow, and I think efficiency is probably the right word here. It's just a good version. Nothing earth shattering maybe, but it's a nice full band groove. And then there is
soaring peaks.
The last couple of minutes are actually very cool. In fact, I wonder if this hadn't been the encore, if they might have taken that somewhere. I can't really put into words what they do, but go back and listen. Just the last minute or two, they start doing something really cool, and I was a little bit bummed that it had to come to an end. But this did end up being in contrast to the first set. This set 2 was the longest set 2 encore of the year at 124 minutes, and then this show as a whole is the longest show of the year at 189 minutes. So set 2 really, really delivered, I think, in more ways than one.
Really phenomenal way to close the tour and leg. And I mean, I think we've all got final thoughts to offer up here, but I just want to say, thank you to this incredible band for continuously, pushing the boundaries and really innovating. I feel like we've spent a lot of time in this episode talking about maybe this call wasn't so great, or this jam, was a bit longer than it needed to be. But Goose is every show they're getting on stage and they're not.
We are
playing
so
it safe.
Blessed.
I think about this all the time, and I think I've mentioned this a few times. All these jams from 2019 that would be, if we were to do a jam of the year bracket of 2019, they would be the 1 seeds. Would be like very, very low seeds even in last year's bracket. But now, something like the Buffalo Arcadia that I think we briefly mentioned earlier would be like a 14 or 15 seed. And this band has come such a long way, even since this time last year. We talked about how, some of the jams, like the Empress, a 20-minute Empress, that's no slouch. But just because none of them in the bracket, are on our playlists right now, doesn't mean that they're not incredible jams. And something like the Frederick Creatures, that was the first of its kind, the first time that they really dug into that groove, Peter leading on electric piano. And that's happened so many times since then. So were they to play the Frederick Creatures, right now, would I rank it as high as I did last year? Probably not. And it's really cool, to watch them innovate their jamming styles and throw all these new songs out here and watch these brand new debuts like Pancakes and Red Bird, become like crowd favorites, really sought after, delivering these incredible jams. I can't wait to see where they go, even just the rest of this year. We've got a few months until summer tour. We've got that quick run of shows at the end of April down south through a couple of festivals. I'm excited to see how they adapt their festival format for the handful of ones they're playing this year. I think, as everyone says, we're just getting started. It's just the tip of the iceberg with where these guys are going to go improvisationally, and it's incredible.
Hey, Ryan, can I give a shout out real quick?
Absolutely.
So I want to shout out Danny Rosewoods right now for winning the winter leg of Fantasy Goose for 2022. I mean, just a champion amongst men here in this.
Big comeback. I recall getting
this pod
quite a bit of flack early on. I was way down in the rankings, but we stay humble until we rise.
So humble.
I want to,
and then
while we're shouting out,
and then really quickly, if I can do one more in the vein of humility, I would like to shout myself out.
I was going to say
for the night 2 Philly Fantasy Goose win, my first one.
It's like a here there.
Round of applause, Kev.
Love you guys.
And then we'll also pile on to Kevin.
Even
Kev has supplied the prize of the year for our Fantasy Goose Jam of the Year bracket with our pod. We're getting down to the last legs here. We got Rob Don himself sitting pretty in third, set to win a Kevin Lang Twister Goose print. So we'll see how that goes. First place gets a new, correct, Kev?
Brand new, never played.
Brand new 2019 Buffalo vinyl.
Let's give a round of applause. By the time this episode comes out, the bracket will have ended.
Nice.
All right, cool. Well, kudos to whoever wins.
Well, let's talk about our what do you guys think? Final thoughts on the leg and the tour as a whole.
Well, man, I'm on record. I put it out there. I think this is a tour that is like a defining moment in a band's career. I think we're going to look back at this tour and say, this is one of those tours, right? It's a special tour, and we're gonna look back at it and think of it as a creative high point. I think is the word I used when I was tweeting about it. They're killing it right now, and like it's hard to find yourself in a moment where like a band is in a creative high point because you kind of sound like a blowhard where you're like, well, the band is like absolutely crushing it right now. But like, I don't know, maybe like 1 or 2 years from now, we're going to look back on this tour, I think, and remember it as like pretty special. So yeah, that's where I stand on this tour. I think Goose is absolutely crushing it right now. And it's not just because they're like filling venues they've never filled before. I think it's because they're touring a whole lot more. They're playing a whole lot more, and they're improving as a band.
Goose is good.
Yeah.
Goose is good.
Mm. Yeah, I thought this was an improvement on leg one. We had some great jams as a whole in leg one, some great quality, but I thought they started to evolve with the set lists and integrating the newer songs into the set lists when what felt a little awkward at times, and still occasionally can for me, in the moment, but trying to make those newer songs not only sound more fluid, but they're gaining confidence with them. Yeah, we've seen an evolution of a lot of jamming. We've touched on a lot of sort of the darker elements and more patient elements that they've found, and then even incorporating some faster parts and sort of different tempos. Some good, cover bust outs. I think we'd like to see that, all of us, maybe some rotation on some of the covers. And then I think as well, there's a lot to look forward to. Like Neal said, it could be a pretty seismic tour in hindsight as they head into this summer. I think a lot more festivals, which will probably provide set lists that quote unquote might not be, they're going to be like heavy hitters. They're going to want to get the crowds along with a mix. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be in Legend Valley next up, I think, and then Radio City. So hope to see a lot of you there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have I guess my greater focus right now is on the optimism that I have, and maybe I'm not so prepared yet to kind of look back and talk about the quality of this last tour or whatever. And I think it was great. I think the quality is there, and I think that's what gives me so much optimism, because I even just looking, like you said, Dee, between leg one and leg two, I feel like there's, for as close as those groups of shows were to each other, I feel like there was a noticeable, there were noticeable developments in a number of different areas. And so with all the new songs that have come out this year, and the quality there, and then all of the the evolution of the jamming and things that you touched on, at this point, I have no reason to believe that this momentum is going to stop. I mean, all the data points to these things are continuing to improve and be better and be more awesome. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the summer, but also the fall. I mean, I think like you mentioned, the festivals and things like that, and the summer's a little bit more broken up. So we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, when we get into more, a more kind of densely scheduled, list of tour dates in the fall, I'm really excited to see where things are going to continue to go.
And we have 30 some more shows now. What did they said we've had 54 scheduled, and they said 80 something.
Yeah. So
something
looking
like
forward
that.
to that.
Yeah. And played 25 so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, before we wrap up, we do have a mailbag segment to get to.
Mailbag.
That we did say on Twitter. So if you didn't know, we now have a separate social media account for Always Almost There. Follow us at AAT Goose Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and Always Almost There on Facebook. Thank you to everybody who responded on Twitter. We are really excited to share some of your opinions. If yours doesn't get picked this time, don't fret. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future for your opinions / questions to get on our podcast. So we'd like to start. I'm going to start with this tweet from Zach at ZWWWP. And yes, I said Z. I am Canadian. Does the pod have a consensus on best new song? My thought is either Silver Rising for songwriting or Pancakes, Great Blue, and not new, but the Goose cover is new. For the Hams. This tune has had the most consistently great jamming of the new batch of songs. We can go around in a circle. I think a lot of us are going to agree on this. I think my favorite of the new tunes, from the songwriting perspective, definitely Silver Rising. And from a jam perspective, I'm going to go with Redbird, because straight burden is the lifestyle. B, what do you think?
I've got Hunger Site at the top of my list right now. And obviously, probably if we're talking just jams, I'd probably say Pancakes.
D?
I'm Silver Rising, Redbird.
Kev?
I'm Silver Rising and then Hunger Site. And if we're talking about jams, definitely Pancakes.
Neal?
Oh, man, I'm going to say, I like a Rise from a songwriting standpoint. And then, for the jams, I like Pancakes.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Zach, for that mailbag question. B, what is your pick?
Okay, I'm going to share some thoughts / questions from our friend Captain Incredible. Shout out to Captain Incredible for all the work that he's done with the Jam of the Year polls in posting synced up videos as soon as I post the polls every day. So thank you so much. That's been super helpful for a lot of people. So there are some bullets here. I'm not going to get to all of them, but let's see. Let me just pick one to start with. Let's see. Nashville, Night One, Rockdale. Still my favorite Rockdale, though the one in Cleveland fell too far apart. I'm going to say false. If that's I don't know if that was a true false question. I would say false is the answer. No, I'm kidding. But yes, Cleveland is the better Rockdale. Let me do another one of Captain Incredible's points here. It is Hunger Site and California Magic are both unstoppable. The level of quality of these debuts, ! True. This one is true. I love Hunger Site, like I just mentioned. It's my top. California Magic is right up there with Silver Rising, Dripfield, Born. These are all incredible songs. I think they're all unstoppable. Those are a few quick points. Check out the tweet if you want to see the rest of the tweets in the thread that Captain Incredible provided us. I unfortunately had time for a couple of those bullet points, but thank you for getting involved.
Kev, what you got?
Gideon posts Nash Pancakes, to which I say, hell yeah.
Love it.
Love it. Very eloquent. All right. Neal.
I get, I don't know how to pronounce it. GRNTD asks, Leg 2 is really solid. I've noticed some sets are being dominated by newer tunes with way less time played in between plays. Do you think this continues into the summer? And I think it does. You're going to see a whole lot more new tunes. You're going to see a whole lot of the older tunes that traditionally were played every third show being played far less. I think we saw that on this tour with All I Need. Only played sparingly throughout the tour. The trend is going to continue. You're going to see a whole lot more Pancakes. You're going to see a whole lot more Atlas Dogs and, other jams of the sort. Redbird is going to
burden.
Yeah, you're going to be burdened a whole lot more than you're going to get Arcadia. Burden. You're going to see a whole lot more Pancakes than you're going to see, All
Mysterious.
Yep.
We already have been.
Yep.
That's who
it's going to keep going. And, I love it. And, I have no problem with it whatsoever.
All right, D, last but not least.
All right. We got a first-time caller, long-time listener from Team Jeff at _Team Jeff asking, are you recording the pod to a click? Of which we respond, no, we are not. We do this all live on the fly. No clit tracks to supply our rhythm. So we provide that ourselves. Just really appreciate everybody getting involved.
Hey, that's not funny.
That's a good one.
Meow. That was a really good job with the click track.
Well, thank you to everybody so much. If you've made it this far,
Godspeed.
Godspeed.
So sorry.
I mean, by this point, they've made it through the whole episode. But thank you for listening to us talk about, this incredible tour that Goose has just completed for this long. I'd like to give a massive, massive shout out to We Moved Through Stormy Weather and Always Almost There's brand new editor, Andrew Mason. Thank you so much for your work, for slogging through all of this rambling. And if you guys are listening and you notice that it sounds a little bit more polished, because Andrew is much more thorough at his job than I am at editing. So thank you, Andrew, so much. We are really, really happy to have you on board, and we really appreciate your work. And it's been a really great discussion with you, gents. I know we have some cool episodes on the docket for the near future. We're going to do a recap on the Jam of the Year 2021 bracket soon. And there's more stuff in the works, so you can get excited about that. We're going to have some guests on soon, I believe. So get excited. Lots more to come for Always Almost There. Remember to follow us on social media at AATGoosePod. Use the hashtag AATGoosePod. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.